Chapter 551.1, Mark's Second Annual Auction, Part 1. The entire event of auctioning was put on Chang Bo's shoulders, and Zai Mei was just there accompanying him as a 17-year-old beauty who just had the job of announcing the item name and bidding amount. Even though she had mastered and even created a new fighting style using firearms, she wasn't as knowledgeable about firearms as Chang Bo. Well, at the very least, Mark thinks so. Hence, she was just there to please the audience with her presence, that's all. After all, the nobles and wealthy individuals who came from far away wouldn't want a male to be the host. Chang Bo was doing it for the money, as he would get 1,000 gold coins as his remuneration, and Zai Mei was doing it as Mark promised her this thing called a date, where both of them spent their time alone, and he would accompany her anywhere she wanted to go. The motivation was there, but there was also this nervousness, as neither of them ever handled an auction before. The bidders are influential people and of great status, and if either of them messed it up, not just Mark's reputation, but even the entire Western Moon's reputation also could take a hit. It goes without saying Mark would be disappointed. Such thoughts only increased the mental pressure on both of them even more. As for Mark, he was accompanying his wife and son, sitting in one of the VIP rooms as a spectator. Sylvandria was also in the same room as the godmother of the child. However, Princess Shen Ling, Mark's official fiancée, was with her father in another room as she had to represent the kingdom. The auction started after the servants passed a brochure to each guest sitting in the VIP room, surprising them. It listed all the items available in the auction with their abilities. Unlike in the previous auction conducted by Mark, this one doesn't have any reserved prices or new weapons. They were entirely comprised of platinum-grade sets and semi-divine weapons artifacts. Half of them belonged to Mark, and the remaining were from the palace treasury, and Mark's ether weapons lying in inventory but were too weak for him to use. As the VIP guests, who mostly were the ones to become winners, knew of the items, Chang Bo's job became easier and his mental stress had been lessened greatly. Seeing her co-host becoming calmer, Zai Mei's mood also improved. As time passed by, both of them became more confident in doing their roles and they were quite pleased with their jobs. But Mark, on the other hand, doesn't look pleased at all. The reason? All the items sold only amounted to 212 million gold coins, which was far less than he anticipated. Even the rank 8 robot was only sold for 70 million. His favorite attack helicopter was only sold for 34 million. Well, it is not like the bidders purposely bid it for low. It's just that, unlike the Void Temple's grand auction, Mark's auction doesn't have this reserved price. Hence, whatever items were bid had to be exchanged with the entire amount right away. Mark realized that he might face heavy losses at this rate. Hence, he thought of a plan and put away 3 items from the traditional auction method. Once all the remaining items were sold, he made Chang Bo announce that the last 3 items would be auctioned through secret bids. Followed by his announcement, the servants rushed into the VIP rooms and handed everyone a blank scroll with their names written in ink on the top. The secret bidding system doesn't exist anywhere in this world. Naturally, everyone got confused when they heard it. As the rank 9 robot put forth 3 items on the table, side by side, Chang Bo explained to the bidders in a raised tone as if he was representing Mark when he was saying the words. These 3 are the top 3 items of the auction: the augmented pill of strength, the peak potion, and the sword of light. Top 3rd item. The augmented pill of strength will increase the realm of any cultivator permanently as long as they are below demigods. Top 2nd item. The peak potion will make any cultivator a supreme being for 5 minutes, as long as they are at least 5 circle realm. The effects will diminish if one's cultivation is below 5 circle. Finally, the top 1 item, Ares, the Sword of Light. Also known as the King's Sword, it is a heaven-grade divine sword capable of increasing one's cultivation temporarily just by holding it, and if you are a light attribute user, its effects will be tripled. According to the historical records, there's a saying from the ancient sages. Those who hold the Sword of Light will become a king, who will lead his people from darkness toward light. Now, we are going to have an hour break. Those who are interested in bidding for these items will have to send their proposal within the time to win the item. There is no higher bid or lower bid this time. Once your proposal reaches Master Lu's room, it is considered your final bid. You can bid with gold coins, ether crystals, rare materials, artifacts, weapons, or even land. Anything valuable is considered in this bid. The winner should hold their promise within 10 days of time. After that, you will have 6 months of reserved period. In this period, a hefty penalty of 5 million gold coins will be added every day. Taking everyone by surprise with his bold announcement, Chang Bo raised his head to look at the first floor. For those in the VIP section, please use only the scroll provided to you and hand it over to the servant allotted to your room. Do not forget to mention the item you were interested in bidding on. Chang Bo then glanced to the front where a few dozen bidders who made their entry with money. As for the interested bidders who weren't handed any scrolls, please do make your way to our guardian and take the slip from him. Drop it in the box. He pointed at the rank 9 robot with a wooden box placed on a table. Beside the box, there were slips of white paper. The clear difference in the treatment of the two sections enraged many bidders on the ground floor. As they were already informed prior to the auction that shouting or using foul language is prohibited in the house, and they could just go at any time, some of them got up and started leaving already in fury. Their money, unfortunately, didn't get refunded. A portion of them didn't get up, not just because of the pride, but it is also because of the fact that they didn't think they would be able to win any of those items. Some of them are also here to watch the fun. Of course, a few adventurers are also there to mentally note down the names of the winners so that they can rob them afterward. Fun fact, only 3 people on the ground floor managed to win an item so far. Most of the items were bagged by those rich elites sitting on the first floor. As a result, less than 10 people swallowed up their pride and walked to the robot to take the slip and pen, writing their bid and dropping into the box. Within 1 hour, many proposals came to Mark, and he engaged in discussion with Sylvandria on choosing the correct bid. And within 15 minutes, the discussion was over and Mark sent back his decision to Chang Bo. Chang Bo looked at the result and his eyes widened in surprise. Zai Mei, who was standing beside him silently, couldn't help but lean her head to the side and look at the scroll. She let out a gasp. Seriously, these were the best bids. Well, at least the last one is worth it, don't you think? Chang Bo replied, to which the 17-year-old shook her head. You don't understand how powerful a heaven-grade divine item is, don't you? Chang Bo shrugged his shoulders in response. Well, it doesn't matter anyway. Let's do our job. Zai Mei nodded and took the scroll. She then took a deep breath, raising her head and announcing it with a smile, enhancing her beauty. For item number 3, the augmented pill of strength, the winning bid is. Chapter 552.2, Mark's second annual auction, Part 2. Trying to build up suspense, Zai Mei paused for a couple of seconds and announced, Earth-grade artifact, the Pagoda of Shenong. Congratulations, adventurer Ryu Fang. An Earth-grade artifact. Several nobles and princes on the first floor got up immediately. Some of them had surprised looks while some of them had angry looks. One particular guest broke the auction rules by shouting, What's this, Lord Lu? Everyone's attention was shifted to the source of the shout. It's King Yan of the Lian Empire, invited by King Shen Niu. Unlike in other empires where there are provinces and lords or governors, the Lian Empire is comprised of 8 vassal states and the imperial city. The rulers of 8 vassal states were titled kings, who could maintain their own army and govern their land as they wished. The premise is that those army generals were appointed by the emperor, and there is a 20% mandatory tax payment to the palace. While these vassal states are ruled by the same dynasty, who will become the king will be decided by the imperial palace, not the current rulers. Yan Xingli was not just a ruler. He is a warrior in the legendary realm, the son-in-law of the current emperor, and very influential to the extent of changing a policy implemented by the palace. Despite thinking of himself as higher than Shen Niu, he still accepted the invitation and came to the ceremony to meet Mark and see if he could fix a marriage alliance for his daughter, who was also accompanied along but was secretly gazing at Prince Feng Wu of Western Yan instead of Mark. Seeing that her father didn't like the behavior of the weapon seller, feeling insulted to the extent of raising his voice against what seemed like an unfair bid, Princess Yan Jiangxin clenched her fist and tried to suppress her smile. As Mark furrowed his brows in displeasure and looked at him, King Yan continued to speak. I offered a sky-grade artifact for the pill. How could you choose an earth-grade artifact over mine? Or is it that you have already made the deal beforehand and was fooling us? A moment of silence filled the hall. His voice sounded thunderous as if he was extremely enraged. Some thought he was overreacting. Some wondered what will the weapon seller do now, and some wondered whether the allegations were true. Amidst several gazes filled with various opinions, Mark got up on his feet and answered with a firm gaze on the guest. A high-quality item isn't necessarily better than lower-quality item. Its usage is more important, King Yan. A person of your status should have already known that. What I have been offered by Adventurer Ryu is far more valuable than yours or anyone else, for that matter. It wasn't an unfair decision. As King Yan's face reddened in shame, Mark took a brief pause and added, and please do maintain the decorum of the auction house. Pointless, ugly arguments would not only waste our time but also tarnish our own dignity. Please take your seat and let our host continue with the proceedings. King Yan furiously sat down, after observing some laughs from fellow nobles. I will teach him a lesson. Who does he think? As he gritted in teeth, his loyal general leaned his head to the side and whispered, My king, that pale lady with pointy ears sitting beside him, is someone not even his majesty dares to offend. Don't forget the fact that he had 2 more demigods on his side. Who knows how many Supreme Realm experts are there behind him? Lu Zhen is like a sleeping volcano. Don't make him erupt unnecessarily, or else our whole kingdom might vanish in the span of a night. Isn't that the main reason why no one dared to reject his invitation and came from even as far as the Zizhai Empire? At once, King Yan realized his folly, and sweat beads appeared on his forehead instantly. As his servant brought a handkerchief on a platter, he couldn't help but mumble, Let's forget this matter. It's best if I don't marry off my daughter to a person who won't be able to face any accountability for his actions. Really? The girl's eyes lit up and she couldn't stop her chuckling as she snatched away the handkerchief from the servant and wiped off her father's sweat on her forehead. Papa, you made a wise decision, but it would be a waste to return empty-handed. Isn't it better to form relations with a kingdom that has its own place in this united celestial dominion, but is weak enough to be controlled by us? What are you saying? King Yan furrowed his brows upon hearing the words of his daughter. She was startled and pointed her finger at her mom who was sitting beside her. Mother suggested that, not me. Eh? King Yan's wife was taken aback at first, but taking a glance at her daughter, she nodded. Yeah, I think Emperor Shang Wei is a great match for our daughter. No, the girl reacted quickly before her father gave his opinion on that. She further added, Grandfather is interested in marrying off cousin Liufan to that Shang Wei. If she marries him first, she will become the empress. I don't want to listen to the orders of that arrogant BTCH. I would rather marry Prince Feng than Shang Wei. Prince Feng? King Yan startled for a second before going into deep thought. Little did he know that his upcoming decision would soon change the map of the invincible Lian Empire forever. Meanwhile, back at the auction, a hooded woman came out of the crowd and walked to the stage, handing over a prism-shaped locket to Changbo. The whelpier raised his head to look in the direction of Mark, who gave his nod. Only after that did he give the pill to the mysterious adventurer. Once she had taken her seat, Zai Mei looked at the scroll and then at the audience to announce loudly, For item number 2, the Peak Potion, the winning bid is the Seed of Light. Congratulations, Adventurer Su Shan. Once again, the entire house filled with shock, this time as the hooded woman got up from her and started walking to the stage. What's going on here? Everyone had the same thought. Chapter 553.3 Mark's second annual auction, Part 3. Amidst curious gazes, as she reached the stage, Chang Bo voiced out his doubt in place of the spectators. "I'm sorry, but aren't you Miss Ryu Fang?" The lady let out a smirk under her hood as she replied, "Is there any rule that I can't use fake names? Also, what is in the name anyway? Do you pick the bids using the names or the items they put forth for the trade?" An elemental seed is a rare thing sought by every adventurer, but its value depends on the person. For some, it is useless, and for some, it is priceless. For example, the seed of fire turned out to be a fortune for Shang Wei. But what about the seed of light? If one doesn't have a light attribute or bloodline unrelated to a light attribute beast, the seed of light will give healing powers to the consumer. Hence, the guests were torn between worth and worthless. Well, since Mark already informed earlier that he wouldn't see the item's price but how much value it will be to him, so people are cool with it. But more than that, they were surprised to see the fact that one uninvited unnamed adventurer, who is in the legendary realm, managed to bag both of the top items. Anyways, what's over is over. They no longer paid attention to the earlier matter as Zai Mei raised the scroll once again. The following item is the main attraction of the auction, and everyone did their best bid to win this. Finally, the top one and the last item of the auction, the Sword of Light. The winning bid for this item is 50 Earth-grade divine items. Congratulations, Adventurer Long Huan. "Ah, you can't be serious," Zai Mei blurted out in shock. Not just her, this time, every spectator also rose to their feet, as it was the same hooded woman who walked to the stage leisurely while swaying her hips. As she reached the stage, Zai Mei asked in disbelief, "Why is it you again? Who are you?" "Just a nameless adventurer," replied the woman as she tossed the storage ring. Chang Bo, however, didn't outrightly hand over the sword to her. Instead, he left the stage and went through the back door before rushing to Mark's room for confirmation. In the meantime, a figure put his hands behind him and spoke loud, although in a calm manner. "Okay, that's it. I'm out of this place without any ethics." The familiar voice made Mark turn his head to look in the direction of the source, only to find the vice president second in command of the Merchant Guild, Wang Ming. Merchant Guild might not have a great presence because of the fact that individual wealthy merchants occupy almost 30% of the market. But he sure has a great reputation among the masses, as every rookie who wanted to be a merchant usually joins the guild to gain experience. While they hand missions regularly, the Merchant Guild is more known as a business school than a guild. One can imagine what kind of contacts this vice president could have, and right now he seemed offended the most. Mark shouldn't have cared about it either, as he could even meet the president if he wanted. But the guest's comment at the end displeased him. As if that wasn't enough, a few noble guests also seemed to be turning around and leaving their respective rooms. Feeling insulted by their actions, he made his move, publicly displaying his arrogance for the first time in months. Sil stopped them. Sylvandria's demigod aura erupted from her body and filled the house. The ones who are seated aren't affected at all, but the ones who got up felt enormous pressure on their body. Some of them collapsed right to their chairs while some were forced to their knees. At once, fear spread among the guests as Mark got up and walked to the edge of the balcony. His gaze was cold and his attention was currently on the old man, who was slowly rising to his feet after the removal of the pressure. "Ethics, Mr. Wang, I repeatedly warned you not to make a scene, and yet, you people are taking advantage of the fact that you are guests and spouting whatever words came to your mouth without taking our dignity into consideration at all. Since you want to leave so badly, you may leave as you wish. But remember, from now onwards, any merchant belonging to your guild has no right to conduct business using our firearms." Some people let out a gasp of surprise, while some stayed silent. Some became serious but didn't voice out their thoughts due to the demigod's presence. King Yan's legs shivered uncontrollably after being experienced the power of a demigod in person. It happened only for 2 seconds, but as someone in the legendary realm, he could understand it more than anyone else in the room. On the other hand, Wang Ming didn't seem intimidated by Mark's warning. He straightened his sleeves and let out a snort as he slowly walked away, as if merchants are lining up to buy firearms from you. Your sails are as dim as a light comes from a single firefly. After commenting in response to the warning, he thought to himself, I will make sure no one even sells your firearms outside your kingdom. Having strength isn't everything in the world. Humph, you just wait, old man. Soon, the entire continent will flip down, muttered Mark under his breath, staring at Wang Ming's back before sitting down in his chair again. Looking at the others who are unsure whether to leave or not, Mark addressed them. I thank everyone who attended the auction. Some of you even traveled here from far away. As a token of appreciation. Clap, clap. Once again, the servants rushed out together with a platter in their hands, although there wasn't food placed on it. Instead, there was a shining semi-automatic handgun with 10-9 bullets placed neatly on the side. There was also a scroll accompanying the weapon, with instructions written on it. For the VIP guests on the first floor, a rifle gun and 50 bullets in a box were provided as complimentary. Of course, the scroll with guidelines is a must. Chapter 554, The Mysterious Island. The afternoon passed away, with most of them started returning to their homes, while some with another agenda continued to stay at the palace as guests. There were a few people who wanted to talk to Mark, but he wasn't even there at the palace to meet them. The siblings were spotted by the guards as they were leaving the palace alongside the mysterious woman in the hood by riding on the top of flying dark horses. Together, they traveled for half a day at least without stopping at any location, until they reached an island located in the middle of the ocean, thousands of kilometers away from any mainland. At one glance, the island doesn't look much different from others. It's a tropical island filled with palm trees at the edge of a thick forest and sandy beaches here and there, etc. However, when Mark scanned the place using his eyes of God's skill, he saw a mysterious barrier around the island. Upon entering that barrier, Mark found the change of scenery. Instead of a forest, there were a bunch of large towers and pyramids located on barren land. All of them screamed of ancient structures. One of such structures particularly attracted both of their attention. It was a stone tablet with mysterious writings. Shang Jiao couldn't help but point at it, just as Mark was about to ask it too. What was that? The hooded woman shook her head. Even we have no idea about it. The language is indecipherable. As they passed by the stone tablet, Mark took a good look at it to commit to his memory to think of it later, and continued to observe the surroundings. We call these ancient mystical towers, or some call it elemental towers too. The hooded woman started explaining the structures around them. Fire and ice, water, earth and metal, lightning and thunder, wind, light and dark, space and unknown. All of these towers existed for thousands of years, long before we discovered this place. We explored everything but the central one, which doesn't give us access. We had a theory, though. As for those pyramids, it was constructed by us. Each pyramid is dedicated to our past leader. What do these towers contain exactly? Shang Jiao couldn't help but ask. The mysterious woman answered, they are the pathways to other planes. Each tower will take you to a different plane of existence, although the location isn't fixed. There's a 99% chance of ending up in a world ruled by spirit beasts. The space tower will randomly send you to a habitable world within our plane. And that unknown, the princess pointed at the central tower and commented, I guess that is connected to the immortal plane or celestial plane. The hooded woman shook her head. Our predecessors assumed the same first, but over the years, we have discovered that the leaking out of that unknown tower had energy similar to the one that binds us to the land. Hence, our assumption is that it is connected to a forbidden realm, like some kind of prison that holds evil souls. Mark couldn't help but furrow his brows in deep thinking as a memory came to his head. Is it the same void realm, the place that Mage came from? The origin of the unnamed box, he wondered. Soon, they reached a structure that looked like an incomplete pyramid. Through dimly lit corridors and stairs, they changed directions several times before reaching an altar with the statue of a wingless dragon trying to eat its tail, which was surprisingly levitating in the air. "It's the void serpent god, our principal deity," said the woman, raising her head to look at the beast. It looked quite similar to our Ouroboros, though, thought Mark, scanning its details. Obviously, the name wasn't displayed, but he found out one interesting thing. "Is this the entrance to that place?" He couldn't help but ask, pointing his finger at it. "Oh, you managed to see it. I wasn't wrong about you after all." A smile bloomed on the woman's face under the hood. "So, are you ready to get in?" she asked. Mark simply looked at her and replied, "Yes, but I don't understand why there is a need to hide your identity. Out with it, Miss Zhen." Mark followed by reaching out to her hood and lowering it down. She didn't resist it too and revealed her face to them. Shang Jiao never met her. Hence, she wasn't that unfazed by her. However, Mark looked a bit displeased. "Is there a reason why you use different identities to buy them?" "Then, people would know that I was related to Void Temple," replied the woman. She looked back straight into Mark's eyes, turning serious. "You killed the werewolf lord and our matriarch, and that divided our organization into several factions with everyone wanting to claim the throne. It gave me a window of opportunity to steal our treasury to make a deal with you. When the news of 50 Earth-grade divine weapons used to get traded in your auction reaches the temple, they will eventually figure out the truth and probably start hunting me down. Before that happens, I need to reach the Supreme Being stage and claim the leadership." She then took out the strength stat pill she won in the auction and handed it to him. "I need the other pill that you promised me." "Okay," Mark nodded and threw the pill into his inventory before taking out the intelligence stat pill that would help her. However, before handing it over to her, he warned, "I need to remind you that it is best to be taken when you reach the peak stage of the legendary realm, which you haven't reached yet." "I know," Xinrui nodded in agreement. She then pointed her finger at Shang Jiao. "Your sister here will help me. She has managed to inherit the orb of time from the spirit of this world. Once we remove the curse on her, I'll help her learn how to master it, and in return, she helps me by using that power to create a time dimension for me, where the time runs extremely slower." I see Mark nodded and then cast a sidelong glance at his sister. The latter also reacted positively. "I understand." Seeing that, Mark inwardly sighed in relief and spoke, "Anyway, let's get moving." Chapter 555, Honorary Alliance. Xinrui took out an exquisite staff adorned with gems and had a cobra on the top, which seemed quite lively as its tongue was moving forth and retracted back, while its eyes were blinking in a scarlet glow. "A celestial-grade weapon." Mark raised his eyes, observing the woman. "It looked like she stole many more things than she admits. Anyways, it is not my problem." She then raised the staff toward the levitating statue. The serpent shot a ray of beams from its eyes and struck the hollow part of the statue. Suddenly, the statue reacted by turning the hollow part into a portal in a dark background. "Follow me." She jumped right in. Mark and his sister took a look at each other before following her into the portal. While the siblings of Ice Attribute ventured into the land of the unknown, at the Lunaris city, a few things happened in their absence. First of all, King Yan fixed a marriage alliance with Feng Wu and his daughter. Secondly, the acting emperor of the Qilin Empire also put forth a marriage proposal, which was between his eldest son, who is still 15, and Princess Shang Jiao. However, Shang Fu mildly rejected the proposal, stating that Shang Jiao is too young at the moment. While it ended up in failure, the prince acting emperor of Ming managed to strike a deal with Shen Niu instead. Perhaps he managed to sense Mark's future move when the latter warned the Merchant Guild's vice president. Or perhaps he knew about the giant factory on Fujian Island. Or maybe it is because of the demigods. Or was it because of Mark's assertive behavior during the auction? Whatever reason might be the case, the Qilin Empire and the United Celestial Dominion drew up a pact of friendship, in which the Qilin Empire would be a part of the alliance as an honorary member. However, what it required was acknowledgement from the Council of Kings. After a brief discussion between Shen Niu and Ming Xianji, the King of Western Moon put forth the proposition of an honorary membership for the Qilin Empire. Luckily, the other kings and emperors were still staying as guests at the palace. Hence, the decision was taken quickly. As if Ming Xianji knew how the Genesis cabinet works, he even brought up the required terms and conditions too. Unlike the permanent member, the terms were slightly different for this honorary member. Being an honorary member, the Qilin Empire's representative can participate in the Council of Kings meetings and share their opinions, but doesn't have the power of voting. However, they can send one permanent representative to the Genesis cabinet, which makes the laws. Unlike the permanent members who pay 40% tax, the Qilin Empire will pay a fixed amount of 50,000 gold coins each quarterly as tax. In return, the Empire will have military protection of the Alliance, which includes a demigod. This demigod is neither Sylvandria nor the Zheng. It isn't even Lan Jingyi. It's Eyal, who is in the body of Fu Sheng, leading his troop as Fu Sheng II and making it an exclusive army of the cabinet. To win everyone's trust even more, the prince of the Ming dynasty, representing his father as the acting emperor, also revealed an important secret of their research on teleportation formation. He proposed making a joint research team, which will focus on building teleportation formations in each capital city so that it becomes much easier to travel between the member states of the Alliance. Perhaps some of the members aren't satisfied with Mark's behavior in the auction. Or perhaps they genuinely wanted to expand the group and feared that Mark wouldn't accept it. Hence, in Mark's absence, the kings influenced their representatives to fast-track the procedures. Within 2 days, the acting Genesis cabinet's president, Xiao Ping, the representative of the Western Moon Kingdom, made the announcement of inducting the Qilin Empire into the Alliance. 1 week later, Song Mansion, Lunaris City. While little Lu Zhen was peacefully sleeping in his cradle and guarded by a couple of rank 9 robots, and secretly, a rank 10 robot that mostly stays hidden, Song Yue found herself in the special training room in the mansion, although one could say she was dragged by Sylvandria without her consent. Forcing her to sit on the floor, the former elven priestess sat before her and spoke in a serious tone so that the human pay attention to her words. "Look, Sister Yue, I know that you are safe with everyone around and you don't actually need any training, but it was never about getting strong. You cannot ignore the fact that Zio Shan was born with the chaos element due to the remnants of the chaos energy inside you. Lu Zhen didn't have the element and probably would have no idea how to train the element. So you should be the one who needs to teach him, or else, who knows what kind of disaster the child brings if kept uncontrolled." Sylvandria's words felt like a jolt to Song Yue that had passed through her entire body and made her shiver for a second. She couldn't help but ask in curiosity, "Is chaos element that powerful?" The elf let out a deep sigh. "Powerful. It's one of the most powerful elements in the universe. With a thought in your mind, you could just transform a tree into a forest and a block of brick into a mansion. You could manipulate reality to any extent and alter the laws of nature. It is why chaos is considered the enemy of gods, who don't like disorder. Lu Zhen could probably protect his family from even immortals, but the heavenly palace is entirely a different question. The gods can wipe out this entire world with a snap of their fingers." "Eh?" Song Yue's curiosity turned into fear, with her face going pale and her eyes widened. "Will the gods punish my child?" She herself knows that it is a ridiculous thought, but being a mother, she couldn't help but become concerned about the possibilities. "Nothing to worry, a mere child wouldn't come into their vision," replied the elf, patting Song Yue's shoulder before continuing. "But you can see Lu Zhen is only 1 month old and he is already at the intermediate stage of 2 circle. We don't know how powerful he even become in the future. Hence, it is important that you become more proficient in mastering your element so that it becomes easier to either train him in the future or suppress his powers in case of an accident." Song Yue took 2 seconds to digest what this elf was trying to say, and she nodded firmly. "I understand. Please take care of me." "That goes without saying." Sylvandria let out an amiable smile, wiping off her earlier serious expression and straightening her back. "For now, let's meditate. We focus on ether energy control before moving to the elemental control. Meanwhile, on the other side of the planet, Mark appeared at what appeared like a seabed with a bubble-like barrier covering him. The surroundings were so dark that none of them could see anything. Before they even get to wonder where they are, a voice is heard in the surroundings. "Oh, there are two mortals apart from my apostle. The aura of Blizzard Pegasus. Interesting, fine, I will grace you with my presence. But before that, you two have to prove your worth. Here we go, good luck." Snap! Followed by the sound of the snap of a finger, Mark's surroundings were once again changed, finding himself in the middle of an endless barren land, with undead skeletons slowly rising from the ground. Chapter 556.1 The Trial of Yuanlong, Part 1. "Hateful Muertalo," roared the undead king, as its core behind the strong ribcage was destroyed with an ice arrow. Followed by the disappearance of the undead, Mark dropped to his knees as his vision blurred. He took heavy breaths with sweat covering his entire body. It's just a fusing 9 circle 1 and yet, so exhausting, cough cough. From the start of the trial, Mark has been fighting against the swarm of the undead for almost 6 hours straight before he finally faces off with the undead king, who is virtually immortal without the destruction of its core. While the undead were weak individually, there were mages hidden in those thousands of undead that could buff them up and even revive them constantly. On the other hand, there is a law placed on this place where his ether energy recovery rate is null. Even his inventory space was locked by the law, prohibiting him from taking out any robots or weapons to use against the undead. For a non-combatant like Mark, it proved to be one of the worst nightmares he ever faced in his life. Even the Saint Realm expert probably gave him less headache than this mere test given by Ouroboros. However, the test isn't over yet. As the undead king fell, Mark received a voice from the sky, congratulating him on winning the trial, but due to his underperformance, it spoke there will be another trial to prove his worthiness. He got 6 hours of break for the next trial, and the laws removed so that he may recover his ether energy and stamina. Mark couldn't help but curse 1,000 times as he lay on the ground to rest. Damn, I should have just gone to the netherworld instead and tried my luck with Demon King Baal instead. He would have given me the appropriate solution to save my sis. No, this is the fault of Xin Rui. Just you wait, bitch. Once I come out of this, I will skin you alive. Calm down, Mark. Save your energy. Who knows what kind of trial the next one will be. As he took a nap and slowly drifted into dreamland, a figure materialized in the sky, a cute-looking rabbit that wore clothes and a top hat. The rabbit had a frown on its face as it mumbled, "I don't see anything special in this mortal. Why is Her Grace interested in him?" After a brief pause, it stretched his hands toward the ground. "Regardless, it's an order from Her Grace. Let's do the job in return." Its palms glowed, shooting a beam of silvery white light and striking Mark while he was still asleep. He didn't feel anything amiss as it didn't hurt him at all. Roughly around an hour later, Mark slowly opened his eyes and stretched his body. Man, that was a good sleep. I wonder how long it passed. "Ark, how much time do I have?" he asked in his head. "Ding, 54 minutes have passed, master. Based on the time you set beforehand, there are still 5 hours, and 3 minutes left till the next trial." Only an hour has passed. A trace of surprise filled Mark's eyes. "I thought I slept for a long time. Should I sleep again? How about just spending the time? Let's just do that." He sat up in a lotus position and opened the recorded tab. There was a 5 hours 42 minutes video recorded as the latest one. It is the battle video recorded by the artificial intelligence through Mark's eyes. Mark scrolled down the list of videos. After scrolling down enough, he clicked on the video from 1 month ago. Soon, the video opened on the holographic screen, which expanded to a 100-inch screen as ordered by Mark. The video displayed Song Yue sitting on the bed with her back against the headboard. There was a baby lying in her arms smiling as he waved his tiny hands. It immediately brought a smile to Mark's face. Lu Zhen. 5 hours later. Woo woo woo. Arg's so hateful, He only makes such sounds in Changbo's hands. Why not me? Is it because he is wealthier, I wonder? For the past 5 hours, Mark immersed completely in watching all those little moments he had with little Lu Zhen from his birth, often commenting about this and that. He lost track of time, caught up in cherished memories. Just as he reliving another cherished memory, a voice suddenly echoed from the sky, jolting him back to reality. Time for your second trial, mortal. Prepare yourself. It's already been 5 hours. Time really passed quickly. Mark closed down the screen and got up. A couple of minutes later, the surroundings changed to beautiful scenery. He was standing almost at the edge of a cliff, watching snow-capped mountains far away with their peaks covered by clouds, endless grassland beneath the cliff, with a river stream flowing in the middle, and numerous animals and birds were seen in their habitats, minding their own business. Mark knew that his surroundings were nothing more than an illusion, but he couldn't help but appreciate the beauty of nature, and also felt peace in his heart just by looking at the scenery. His mood was once again destroyed by the voice from the sky, giving him a mission. It's time to put your perception to the test, mortal. I'm sure you are aware that everything before your eyes is nothing more than an illusion, and yet your heart and mind don't wish for you to come about it. You pass this trial when you manage to see the reality of this place. Good luck. That's it. Mark was stumped by the task given by the voice from the sky. He couldn't help but chuckle and laugh out loud for a few seconds. Man, here I thought it was going to be another tiring challenge. Arc Open Skills List. Mark scrolled down a bit and clicked on the skill that wouldn't cost him a bit or have any cooldown time period. Ding, Eyes of Truth skill has been activated, Master. During the past few months, Mark did work out on Eyes of God with the help of artificial intelligence. Through this, he created a couple of skills, more like variations of the skill. One of them is the Eyes of Truth, which focuses more on illusions. As Mark's eyes glowed, the scenery before him changed, instantly revealing the truth. The beautiful snow-capped mountains changed to erupting volcanoes, the grassland changed to dark land with cracks everywhere, and the river streams changed to lava rivers. As for the animals and birds, they changed to fire-type demonic beasts. Roars of the beasts filled the entire area as if they were either in deep agony or in rage, forcing Mark to shut his ears. Fortunately, it only lasted a moment before everything came to a standstill and the voice returned once again. That fast? Now this is something I haven't expected, mortal. It looks like while you lack strength, your perception in distinguishing reality and illusion is indeed unprecedented. No wonder you are favored by Milady. But it is still a surprise that you could break the illusion in a matter of seconds. To see through this illusion, one should be above the... Mark raised his head to look at the clear sky and interrupted the speech given by the voice. I'm sorry, but can we proceed with the next trial, mister? You can spare me all of those praises once I am done with it. His voice had a hint of impatience, and his face looked all serious. Mister, the mysterious being appeared as if he was surprised for a second before letting out a chuckle of amusement. It's been the first time one addressed me that way. Fine. Everything is the will of the three pure ones. Followed by the mooting of his voice, the surroundings once again changed. The landscape returned to the barren land, but the opponent is slightly different. A shadowy figure appeared in front of Mark's eyes. Defeat yourself, and it will be the end of tests, the voice told him as Mark's opponent slowly took the appearance of Mark. Everything is an exact copy of Mark from head to toe, except for its eyes, which are scarlet in color with no visible pupils. Good luck. As soon as the voice from the sky ended, heavy gravitational suppression appeared in the area, all of a sudden. Mark was instantly forced to his knees. His eyes widened his realization. Gravity Dome. Chapter 557.2, The Trial of Yuanlong, Part 2. The release of 100 times gravity in the surroundings forced Mark to his knees, and before he got to counterattack, Mark's copy charged forward like lightning and gave a kick to his chin. Gravity Dome, activate. Mark hollered at the top of his lungs to hinder his copy's movements and also hoped to be free from the suppression. Ding, skill launch has failed. However, the result was a failure. Why? This was the thought of Mark as his vision blurred while the kick was connected, sending him fly away tens of meters backward. Pain radiated from his chin and blood trickled down his lips, but he gritted his teeth and tried to push himself up, with his muscles straining against the crushing gravity. However, it was to no avail, for he could only barely lift his head. When his eyes met his copy, the latter was seen smirking. "Is that all you've got?" The copy taunted him further. Wiping off the blood on his lips, Mark shouted inside his head, "Ark, what happened?" He couldn't help but ask the artificial intelligence for the answer. After all, this was the first time he ever saw the failure of skill launch, especially when it was done by either the system or the AI. Ding, the graviton particles in the surroundings are under the control of the enemy. Master needs greater mastery to take back control. Greater mastery. Mark's facial expression became ugly when saw the notification. Forget about greater mastery. He doesn't even have an ounce of mastery to launch the skill on his own as he could do with bloodline skills, for he always activated it with the help of the system. He also knew that the gravity dome wasn't altering the planet's gravitational force. It's manipulating graviton particles in the air, making them heavier or lighter at the user's will. Someone activating the skill means they're controlling these graviton particles within a certain range. It made perfect sense that without superior mastery, he couldn't wrest control back. Hence, he had to think of another method. Meanwhile, his copy conjured a bunch of ice spears and charged forward. Having no other choice, Mark conjured his blizzard wings from the back and used them to cover him up for defense while thinking of a solution. Ting 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 ting. The copy attacked Mark with the icy spears one after another, but Mark's wings managed to block each, and every one of them with its superior durability. This gave him enough time for an idea to pop up in his head, and he asked, "Ark, if you take control of my mind, could you do it?" Ding, it is not possible for me to take back control from him. However, I can negate it. But that also means the master cannot activate the skill in the meantime. Damn it, fine, Mark gritted his teeth. He couldn't let his copy win. Summoning his determination, he focused on the faint tingle of his power. He had trained for this. His mastery might not be greater, but he had one advantage, Ark. "Ark, synchronize with my neural output and take control," Mark commanded. "Understood, synchronizing now." A surge of energy flowed through Mark, and he felt a heightened awareness of the gravitons around him. His muscles strained, but this time, he felt a slight give into the oppressive force. Ding, synchronized. The change in the density of gravitons is no longer effective on the master. Suddenly, Mark felt lighter than ever. I wonder if others might have also felt like this, whenever I use this skill on them and remove it later. Anyway, let's get back to the fight. His copy's eyes widened in surprise as Mark slowly rose to his feet. "Impossible," it hissed. With a focused burst of energy, Mark jumped forward, throwing his fist at his copy's cheek. The copy gave a glance to the incoming punch and stayed on the spot, getting hit on his cheek. His gaze was fixed on Mark, and he had a smirk on his face as the fist couldn't even budge his face. "It's futile, Shang Zhen. You should know your body the best. There is no way such a weak punch could actually hurt me." A trace of surprise appeared on Mark. "Shang Zhen." The copy tightened his fist too and gave a punch to Mark's face at blurring speeds. Pow! His nose became bloody and crooked as he flew back and crashed 100 meters away. "Arg!" he groaned in pain. The copy slowly started walking toward him. It was then Mark suddenly started laughing with his gaze on the sky. Everything now made sense. Clap, clap, clap. Did he go crazy or something? Mark's copy wondered aloud before he charged forward, reached his opponent in a jiffy, and jumped high, landing on Mark's stomach with a knee strike. He cough. Mark coughed out a mouthful of blood and collapsed down. His gaze met with his counterpart, who looked down at him. Mark laughed once again. "What's funny?" his copy asked with a frown on his face. Mark replied, "Here I thought it was going to be a battle against myself, but it doesn't look that way. Earlier you addressed me as Shang Zhen. That's the biggest mistake you have made, imposter." The frown on copy deepened. Whether you wish to agree or not, this is the birth name your parents gave you. If you want to pretend like me, tell me what this is." Mark raised his hand and gave a middle finger to the copy. The copy tilted its head in confusion. "It's missing the storage ring you wore a while ago." "I knew it." Mark's smile widened further as he proved his hypothesis. He strengthened it more as he spoke in English this time. "It means FUKYOU, you idiot. Haha, can you follow what I am saying right now? I don't think you do, bastard." The confusion on the copy's face increased even more. "I don't recognize the language you are speaking." Mark took his confused state to his advantage and spoke in his head. "Activate singularity." Singularity formed in the middle of his palms, generating infinite gravitational force to suck the target into it. Before the copy understood what was going on, he was sucked into Mark's palm. The latter then spoke. "Deactivate the skill, arc." The singularity was about to form a black hole, but instead disappeared as if it didn't exist in the first place. "Ding, singularity has been deactivated. The target has been destroyed." "Ding, all functions have been unlocked." This is a spatial skill Mark accidentally created in the elf world when he lost his memories, almost destroying the world in the process, and was saved by the system in the end. Originally, the skill should have been activated in this controlled manner. As that is unleashed without the system's assistance, the true singularity was created back then. "Okay, now that the matter is settled, it is time to meet the god or whatever divine beast that wanted to test me." Mark rose to his feet, taking out a bottle of water from the inventory and cleaning his mouth. As a result of the trial's end, a giant portal, similar to the one at the temple he used to get to this place, appeared not far away from Mark. As he turned his head to look at the portal, two figures exited it. One was tall, with a muscular build, wearing silver armor, with a giant broadsword that was as big as him hanging on his back. The other one was a small and cute white rabbit with jade-green eyes, wearing clothes and a top hat. It was seen flying alongside. Mark instantly acted his eyes of God to get their basic details. Instantly, a frown appeared on his face. "Li and Yudu, the servants of the moon goddess. I thought it was linked to that Ouroboros-looking kinda thing." Chapter 558, Chang, the moon goddess. Species human. Age 3000 plus. Rank 11 Circle Peak Stay. Spirit Path Swordsman. Attribute Ice Divine. Bloodline NA. Species Rabbit. Age 10 million plus. Rank 12 Circle. Attribute Divine. Bloodline the Jade Rabbit. Mark was more surprised with the fact that this cute-looking rabbit is a Saint Realm beast, and even more absurd is that it is over 10 million years old. Is it immortal? Mark couldn't help but wonder. His gaze was mostly fixed on the tiny thing that was flying beside the muscled warrior. As they reached him, Mark calmly greeted them with a casual bow. "Hello." The man returned the greetings with a nod and introduced himself. "I'm Li, the chief of the Celestial Lunar Guards." "Yudu, Milady's personal assistant." The rabbit's behavior made it seem like it was annoyed and also looked down on Mark. The latter wondered whether it was because it was in the Saint Realm. Mark bowed to them once again as their information was updated. "Nice to meet you, I'm Lu Zhen." The rabbit then spoke. "You know we were watching you from the beginning. Your energy reserves don't even reach up to the basic mark that our maids in the palace have. However, your body could take hits. Your magic attacks are abnormal and could even rival this man's power, but you don't know how to utilize it properly. Milady wants to ask you how you saw through the illusion when you are a mortal who has yet to lose his materialistic desires." If it was the past Mark, he would have been by the rabbit's tone, but several things that happened during the past year changed him. Departure of the system, reconciling with his parents, his marriage to Song Yue, and becoming a dad. These things primarily had a huge influence on Mark's mind, and he had become too soft enough to not mind such words from the rabbit. In fact, he became even more understanding. Mark looked at the rabbit and then spared a glance at the warrior beside him. "If your master wants the answer, I will answer to her directly." The rabbit frowned and commented, "You are arrogant mortal." Mark put up his fake smile on his face and gave a cheeky reply, "I passed all of your trials. You must give me a room to be proud, mister." The jade rabbit stared at Mark for a few seconds in silence and eventually let out a sigh. "Well, I have to follow orders anyway. Follow us." "Wait, what about my sister?" asked Mark in a hurry. The rabbit answered as it floated in the air, turning around. "She is still in trials, but nothing to worry about. Even if she fails, she won't die." "Okay, that's good." Mark sighed in relief and followed the rabbit and the man, who turned around. As they reached the portal, he opened his mouth once again. "Just one last thing. Who is your master, by the way?" "You will understand everything when you go there," replied the rabbit as it flew into the portal. Li, the warrior, then added his opinion. "I would give you a piece of advice, though, Challenger Shang. Show your utmost courtesy in front of Her Majesty." He followed the rabbit into the portal. These two individuals sure love to put on airs, but then again, they have the strength to act that way. If they are the subordinates, I wonder how strong their master will be. Sil said one must be in God's realm to remove that curse on Zio Jiao, Mark muttered under his breath before stepping inside the portal too. The scenery changed once again. This time, he found himself in the middle of a grand hall, bathed in a soft, silvery bluish glow that seemed to be emanating from the walls. There is so much to describe the beauty of the grand hall, but Mark's gaze was only fixed on one person, the lady with ethereal beauty. Since Song Yue, he has never witnessed a beauty that could raise his heartbeat to such an extent. Her hair is long, flowing, and lustrous. Her eyes are deep and enchanting. They have a serene, otherworldly quality, and when she gazes, it feels as if she can see into one's very soul. Her complexion is flawless and pale. It has a delicate, almost translucent quality that adds to her ethereal presence. Her beauty is timeless and otherworldly. The woman wore flowing robes made of the finest silks. These robes were adorned with patterns of stars, moons, and celestial motifs, and they moved as if with a life of their own, gently floating around her. She wore delicate jewelry crafted from gems that looked a bit like sapphire, but Ark says it is an unknown element. These pieces are understated yet elegant, enhancing her natural beauty without overshadowing it. She is also surrounded by a soft and radiant glow of the aura of divinity. In both of his lives, Mark was confident that Song Yue was the perfect woman he ever saw up close. But when the goddess came near him, he couldn't help but think that even his wife pales in comparison to her. The goddess walked up to him as the warrior and the rabbit went down to one of their knees while keeping their gaze on the floor. She eventually stopped, about 5 to 6 feet away. Letting out a smile, she spoke, "Welcome to the Lunar Palace, mortal." Who are you?" Mark stuttered a little bit, reacting to her greetings. When he realized his folly, he hurriedly bowed, "I'm sorry. I haven't heard of your identity, your grace." He tried to be as polite and formal as he could. It was quite hard for him, who was used to ordering everyone or speaking casually. After all, this is an entity that has the power to destroy an entire planet at will. Even if he uses everything he has, he won't be able to kill her. Hence, he had to be courteous as he was advised. Moreover, on the way, she experienced how even his inventory was locked. Who knows what powers she might have? The goddess let out a giggle but covered her mouth with her hand. "Relax, mortal. I'm not as strict as those gods who care about hierarchy. As for my identity, you can call me Chang. If it is too much, you can address me as your grace, as everyone does." The rabbit raised its eyes and took a glance at her master and thought, "As if you don't care about hierarchy, you two-faced devil. You are famous for bullying your servants when they are not too courteous toward you and act as if you are the Jade Emperor." Its eyes then glanced to the right to spot the mortal who was standing toe-to-toe against his master. "I really wonder what's in this mortal that Milady was so interested about that she even pardoned him from the formalities, which she only does with other fellow deities of the heavenly palace." Mark raised his head to look at her directly and became dazed for a second before he controlled himself and cupped his fists with a bow. "If your grace is the one that I'm here for, then I humbly request you to save my sister from the curse she got from a cosmic orb." "The orb of time," commented the goddess in response. "Yeah, I sensed it. It's not a problem." Then Mark looked at her hopefully. However, the goddess' following words caused turmoil in his heart. "But we cannot just do favors on mortals. It goes against the code of the heavenly palace. A price needed to be paid." "Price? What is it?" Mark didn't promise right away and asked her. He decided to reject the request if it involved his personal life. For example, working for her as a slave for a certain period of time or something like that. The goddess then said, "You have to bring back Hu Yi's soul that was supposedly imprisoned in the netherworld." A. Chapter 559, Chang and Hao Yi's backstory. It was the time when Emperor Ku ruled the world. Back then, there are no wars around. The beasts roamed the land freely while the humans lived in their settlements without the worry of any invasion. I was born as the daughter of a noble, and Hao Yi was born in a small village. Usually, we were born in different worlds that couldn't align with each other in any time period. But the sudden appearance of the cosmic orb of malevolence plunged our Dikyu realm into chaos. People became greedy. The nobles wanted to rule, the commoners wanted to hunt down the beasts to get stronger, and the dragons wanted to loot the people. That was a decade I couldn't forget even after a long time. As the ancients often say, heroes rise in turbulent times. Hao Yi's talents as an archer made him well known all across the world over time. With blessings from Emperor Ku, he became the guardian of the world. During this period, we met each other, fell in love, and became a married couple. Just as we thought everything would come to an end, the sun god gets corrupted for some reason, and he multiplies 9 times to surround our world, intending to destroy all life for some unknown reason. Hao Yi accepted the emperor's plea and set out to save the world. Armed with his celestial bow and magical arrows bestowed upon him by Emperor Ku, Hao Yi climbed to the peak of Kunlun Mountain, where he had a clear view of the 10 suns. With unmatched precision and strength, he shot down 9 of the 10 suns, leaving only one to provide light and warmth while taking all of that remnant energy into him to protect the world, almost dying in the process. Impressed by his efforts, Zai Wangmu, the Queen Mother of the West and Jade Emperor's wife, gave him the elixir of immortality as a reward. Hao Yi could drink it and ascend to the heavens as an undying immortal, but instead, he brought it back to our home to keep it safe. He actually planned on using it to brew a magical elixir, so that even a poor boy in a mountain village gets to enjoy long lifespans with immunity to disease and extraordinary healing recovery. But he wasn't an alchemist. The only one he trusts to make such an elixir is the mighty Leviathan, which he had a contract with. Who could have expected his own summoning contract would betray him for the elixir? Hao Yi and Leviathan fought for days and nights. They were heavily injured, and Leviathan's army wanted to raid the world to acquire the elixir in the absence of the guardian. To protect it from falling into the wrong hands, I had to drink all of the elixir and become immortal while my husband died due to injuries. But the story doesn't end there. That evil serpent dragged his body and soul back with it to the depths of the netherworld, a place where all the deities, even the Jade Emperor, are vulnerable. On the other hand, as I assumed the post of the ruler of the moons, I'm stuck in this palace, not capable of leaving that place. Thousands of years have passed, and I was waiting to meet a warrior who could help me. And now, look at the coincidence. The one who I was waiting to meet ended up not only our descendant, but also the one with a contract of a demon king. If this is not fate, what else it is, mortal? Wait. While Mark found the story very heart-touching, there was something else that disturbed him. "I'm your descendant," he asked the moon goddess Chang. The moon goddess was pleasantly surprised by his question. "Of course," she nodded with a smile as she snapped her fingers. Instantly, countless light particles conjured in front of Mark, transforming into the image of a couple. One looked similar, if not an exact copy of himself, but in traditional warrior clothes and a bow, and the other is the graceful-looking moon goddess, who seemed unchanged at all, except for the divine aura. Mark couldn't help but stare at the image. As a modern man, the first thought that came to him was, Is this a Photoshop? But then he instantly put that silly thought away, as there is no reason why a goddess who is as strong as Baal would want to lie to him. Her ethereal beauty also affected his mentality a lot. He just couldn't help but believe her words to his heart. However, the main problem is still there, and Mark had to point it out first. Okay, let's just assume that I'm really Haoyi's descendant, Your Grace, but I'm still not strong enough to go into the demon world to do your task. While I could still feel the connection with Baal, there is no guarantee that he will help me. Isn't it the same as committing suicide? Cautious Mark didn't hesitate to put forth the facts, as he didn't want to die and leave his wife and child behind. In response, the moon goddess replied almost instantly, as if she was prepared to answer his doubt. I'm going to come with you, so no worries. Huh, Mark was taken aback by her response. Didn't you earlier say that you are not capable of leaving? Oh, I just have to appoint someone as my successor and I can leave. That's not a problem at all, replied Chang. Mark couldn't help but furrow his brows, deeply thinking of everything that transpired so far. If that is the case, how come she has yet to do it? Why did she need him then? Perhaps she has no way to enter the netherworld itself without an outsider's help, and she wants revenge against Leviathan. There were a few questions in his head, but Mark felt like it would be rude to ask her everything, as it would seem like he was interrogating her. But at the same time, there is also an issue of security. If the air in the netherworld is poisonous to divine beings, Chang wouldn't be much of a help. Her cultivation might be suppressed to Saint Realm, and she might not be a match for Baal. So, is it necessary to take her with him? After thinking thoroughly, Mark said, I accept the task, but under one condition. He bowed to her once again and cupped his fists. Your Grace, I request you to heal my sister prior to our journey so that I get to be in peace. That goes without saying, mortal. Chang's smile continued to stay on her face as she further added, after all, we need the power of her cosmic orb to defeat that evil monster. Before we go, I'll also help you enter the demigod realm. Moreover, if you want to remove the mark of the Queen Mother Goddess branded on your soul, you would have to be in the demigod realm. Until we work on your issues, you can stay here as the guest. It was from the Queen Mother. Mark's heart skipped a beat when he heard it. His eyes widened as he thought, no wonder the system said it doesn't have the power to erase the mark. Thank you. One day later, in one of the gardens of the Moon Palace, Mark is seen meditating as Chang was personally helping him with the breakthrough. Through her blessing of divine energy, his cells rapidly turned into ether particles, increasing their number every second. In just an hour, they reached almost 1 billion in number, the bottleneck of the supreme realm. Mark could feel a burst of energy inside his body. He could sense how strong he had become. While he might have taken a shortcut to reach such a stage, Mark doesn't feel an ounce of shame for it. If it happens by luck, then so be it. If it happens by taking the help of a third party, so be it. As long as his goal is achieved, it is satisfying for him. On the other hand, the moon goddess doesn't look good. She has a deep frown on her face as she continuously pours her divine essence into Mark's body. Why? It's been absorbed but not being refined. There was a huge wall that even I couldn't break. Is this his limit? No, that cannot be. He is the holder of the Blizzard Pegasus and some unknown power that even I'm not aware of. There is no way his potential is stuck here. What might be the reason? After trying it for another hour, she stopped the process and let out a deep sigh. It's useless. Chapter 560, To the Netherworld. Mark opened his eyes, filled with excitement, observing his hands for a couple of seconds before getting up in a hurry and cupping his fist to the goddess, who was seen standing not far away with her gaze fixed on the horizon. Your Grace, thank you for your help. He genuinely thanked her, as he knew how long he had to suffer to get such a huge amount of ether particles. With this, he couldn't wait to try out his bloodline skills. However, Chang responded by letting out a sigh once again. Mortal, I promise to help you in a breakthrough to the demigod realm, but I don't have the capability to do it. The only thing that makes sense is your problem doesn't lie in cultivation, but lies with your mind. You have to solve those things that weigh on your mind in order to make a breakthrough. she said in an apologetic tone. Perhaps she was ashamed to face him. She refused to meet her gaze with her, unlike before, and talked to him while looking away. Mark instantly remembered his past life. There is a knot in his heart that he has yet to compromise with. He could forgive Lu Zhen's parents because they weren't his parents in the first place. But the betrayal from his trusted comrades and superiors from his past life is something that he cannot ignore. There is also his life mission to reunite with his younger brother. Unfortunately, these things he cannot share it with the goddess and has to keep silent for now. Chang perhaps was waiting for him to speak something, but as Mark stayed silent, she kept glancing to the sides for a while, until the awkward silence between them was broken by a beam of ice appearing in the sky, not far away from them. Hem. It looks like your sister made a breakthrough. Chang hurriedly flew away from the spot. Mark stared at her back in a complicated gaze for a while. In the end, he let out a sigh. Well, Xiao Jiao was healed. That's enough for me. Whether she still holds hope that I could help her or not has nothing to do with me. I just needed to ensure my life. That will be enough. The orb of time, huh? 3 days later. Mark and Chang were standing together in the middle of the grand hall. Both of them were almost sticking to each other, with a large chain over their necks that had an amulet in the bottom. Do you think it will work? Mark asked the goddess. The latter turned her head and answered, of course, as long as. Their eyes met, and their noses almost touched with each other, making Mark and Chang look away as the latter finished her reply. As long as our energies are in sync. Pouring his ether energy into the amulet, he mumbled, I hope I'm doing the right thing. Chang poured the energy into the amulet at the same time. As he closed his eyes, mystical drawings started appearing beneath their feet before demonic energy enveloped their bodies. Chang let out a painful groan but bore the pain, not trying to resist the poisonous demonic energy. Soon, the seal released a beam of light. As the light disappeared, they too disappeared not only from the room but even from the mortal plane of existence. When his vision was restored, Mark found himself in the middle of an island located in the middle of a lava river. The sky looked too cloudy, and the constant rumbling of thunders could be heard all over the place. However, Mark finds himself alone. Chang wasn't on his side, making him wonder whether they teleported to different locations or whether it failed and he alone got here. While he was wondering about what happened with the moon goddess Ark, the artificial intelligence spoke in his head. Master, the magnetic field is too messed up here. The quality of natural energy is too dense. It is not recommended to stay here for a long time. Well, I'm a human and you are a super artificial intelligence. Ark, both of us had one thing in common. We adapt to our situations. Far away from his location, Bale woke up from his sleep and furrowed his brows. Lu Zhen, this isn't his spirit. I can sense life force. He is here with his physical body. Is he crazy? I can also sense the presence of a deity here. His frown was replaced by an evil grin. It's been a long time since I have met a dog from the heavenly palace. This should be fun. Forget about Lu Zhen for now. Let's capture this deity before others make their move. Meanwhile, in another part of Ars Gotia, Chang found herself in the middle of an island located in the endless sea of lava. She couldn't stop shivering as she mumbled, we were separated, but that is all right. As long as I have this, there is nothing to worry about. Even if he dies, I can revive him. She took out an orb that was constantly emitting an emerald green aura. Leviathan, here I come. Several hours passed away in the blink of an eye. As Mark started exploring the demon world with his icy wings spread widely, he realized various things about this new world. First things first, there was a lack of vegetation in this place. Even after traveling for 1 whole hour, he had to see a single blade of grass anywhere. While the never-ending lava, river, and lakes seemed to be normal here, he realized that this place was rich in minerals and rare metals. Ark, the AI, was busy scanning the surroundings and reporting him simultaneously, doing his job. After crossing many regions and hordes of normal demons on the way and creating disturbance everywhere with his presence, Mark eventually landed on an island filled with purple-colored crystals where a demon was engrossed in practice. He was thrusting the spear into the air, over and over, with a hardened expression on his face. The artificial intelligence naturally cannot get his details, unlike the system, but it sure successfully scanned his strength and abilities, using Mark's God's Eye skill. Species Demon. Age 8 million plus. Rank 12 Circle Peak Stay. Spirit Path Swordsman. Attribute Fire Demonic. Bloodline Nyanmeng. Mark landed on the ground, not far away from him. However, the demon continued to practice, not sparing a glance at him. After waiting for half a minute, Mark eventually decided to interrupt him with a greeting. "Hello, sorry for the disturbance, but can we talk for a second?" His words brought the demon back to reality, and it displeased him for sure. With a frown clearly displayed on his face, the demon took a sniff and then growled, "I smell divine energy inside you, mortal. What are you here for?" Divine energy. Mark was first slightly taken aback by the comment, but then as he remembered that mark on his soul by the deity which wasn't removed yet, he composed himself and explained, "I have no ties with the gods. If anything, I'm more connected to the demons. I have a contract with King Baal." Baal, the frown on the demon's face disappeared and was replaced with curiosity. He observed Mark for a couple of seconds and nodded. "Indeed, I can sense the aura of Baal latched onto your soul. That makes you one of us." Putting away the spear, he asked, "So, what do you need from me? Do you want me to show you the directions of his region, or do you need my help in contacting him?" "You can request anything but a contract with me. I don't like to form contracts with mortals to fulfill their selfish desires." Chapter 561. Mark acquires a demon slave. It looks like I struck gold. Mark controlled his happiness by clenching his fist and trying to be as calm as possible as he replied, "Baal once told me about the existence of a beast named Leviathan. I wish to form a contract with it. But I don't know its location, and I don't have enough time to explore this entire realm in search of the beast. If you kindly help me, it would help me a lot." Guardian Leviathan. The demon's eyes widened in shock before a chuckle escaped from him, turning into a burst of laughter. "Seriously? Ha ha ha, oh great devil, I never thought I would hear such words from a mortal in my whole life. You look like someone who is still in the body-forging stage demigod, and you want to form a contract with the great Leviathan. Ha ha ha." Guardian? Mark was taken aback by the demon's address toward the beast. He felt like the beast he had to face was something that was more powerful than this Saintrealm demon lord. At once, he felt like he should use the amulet and escape this place. But remembering his promise, he calmed down his nerves with a deep breath and nodded firmly, exuding confidence outwardly. "I think I can do it, as long as I have help." "Help? Baal is considered one of the top 3 fighters in this realm, and not even he is a match for the Guardian," replied the demon. After a brief pause, he turned serious and added, "Return to your world, mortal. You are lucky that you are in my region, or else you would have long been shredded into pieces." The demons don't like mortals, and neither do they care about other demon kings in their territory. Stronger than Baal, is it in true God realm 14 circle? Mark's facial expression turned ugly. "In that case, I don't think it is possible for even Chang to save husband's soul." Wait a second. It could be possible with unnamed. The box weighs over 1.32 billion kg. If I unleash Gravity Dome to the max, its weight will be increased to 264 billion kg. Now the target is a 14 circle realm beast. To injure it, I should at least need force equivalent to that realm. Let's see. Song missile with a warhead of 42 KT yield releases around 174 terajoules, which is equivalent to an attack from an Immortal, 11.1 stats. Then, the Mark 14 nuclear bomb, with a yield of 6.9 megaton releases around 28.9 petajoules, and that is equivalent to an attack from a Saint, 12.1 stats. So that means the energy released from an attack of a Saint is roughly 165 times bigger than that of an Immortal. I can't calculate it linearly, but for a rough estimate, the bare minimum needed to hurt a 14 circle realm should be 1 zeta joules. We might even be 10 times the value, but let's assume this bare minimum value. Let's say I throw it down from 1 km of height. Throwing horizontally requires more work. Not to mention, there is always a risk of failure. The gravity here in the netherworld is around 16.32 ms2, according to ARC. But what if I apply density manipulation on the object? Its mass will be increased up to 200 times, so its overall weight will be increased by 40,000 times. Ah, nope. Don't forget that base gravity is different here. It is 1.6 times higher. So the resulting weight will be 84.48 trillion kg. ARC, calculate it for me. Assume the required energy release is 15 zeta joule. Ding, that will be around Mach 126 approx, the required velocity needed to achieve the result. Eek, that is impossible. ARC, reduce it to 1.5 zeta joule then. Ding, that will be around Mach 40 approx, the required velocity needed to achieve the result. Oh boy, Mach 40, huh? I guess that is also achievable. Mark nodded. Mach 40 sounds like a huge number, but with the help of the divine throne, Mark felt like he could do it. As the object was bound to his soul, he didn't feel its weight even under any gravitational force. Hence, he was confident in inflicting even greater damage as long as he could just throw it with everything he got, provided that it hit the target. But the only problem is that this attack should be done discreetly. He needs someone to take away the attention from the target. As Mark returned to his senses, he saw the demon had already returned to his practice, thrusting his demonic spear into the air. Mark got an idea. Ooh, excuse me, Mark interrupted his practice once again. As the demon looked at him, this time with a slightly annoyed expression on his face, Mark said in a calm manner, "Earlier, you said that you wouldn't like to form a contract with humans for their selfish desires, but I also know that strength is everything in the demon world." Yes, so. The demon furrowed his brows, not liking what this conversation was going to do. Mark then summoned his divine throne and transformed it into a submachine gun with a thought in his mind. I would like to challenge you for a duel with my soul as the stake. You win and you may claim my soul. I win and you form a contract with me. Do you dare to accept? He purposely raised his voice in the end, trying to provoke the arrogance of the demon. So, this divine artifact is the reason for your arrogance. The demon instantly responded with the bottom end of the spear slamming onto the ground. A foolish mortal who doesn't like to appreciate my noble intentions deserves to die. His demeanor changed instantly. The demonic aura erupted from him, forming a layer over his skin. Raising the spear and pointing it at Mark, the demon said, I, Aloses, one of the great dukes of Ars Gotia, accept your challenge. If you could win against me, I will even be willing to be your slave, do your bidding for the next 100 years. Ding, information about the target has been updated. Man, that was even better. I guess it was the luck points. Mark nodded with a smile, pointing the gun at the target. Just as the demon lord was about to make his move, Mark's eyes turned icy blue as he mumbled, freezing gaze, activate. Aloses only moved one step and he was frozen on the spot, imprisoned in ice. Mark didn't wait for the enemy to get out. He put away the gun and charged forward while unleashing another skill, Thunderblast. Rumble. Dark clouds gathered in the sky within a second, followed by the rumbling of thunder and the descent of yellow-colored lightning, striking the demon directly on his head. A few seconds later, as the ice melted down, Aloses was found standing there on the spot, with his burnt hair and blackened face, and second-degree wounds on his body. Thud. He fell to his back at once. Ooh, Mark stood there in a daze, watching the mighty demon falling unconscious in an instant. That was an overkill. I thought he was a peak stage Saint Realm demon. Ding, Master, the target was frozen in ice, which slowed the movement of molecules in his cells. As a result, the cellular energy, which is the prime source of demonic energy, couldn't properly defend the body. Meanwhile, the lightning strike as well as the ice were both conjured by the Master. Hence, they didn't go against each other. However, when the lightning strike hit the target, the resulting energy and the target's fire attribute energy melted down the ice, which turned into water, further helping the remnant lightning energy to inflict more damage on the target. Oh, never knew that this combo could have such an effect. Mark was pleasantly surprised by the result of the combo he merely created on a whim. He thought of freezing the target on the spot, which could give him the time to inflict damage with the Thunderblast that only has the power of an intermediate-stage Saint Realm expert. If there wasn't the artificial intelligence that scanned the process and explained it to him, he wouldn't have known as everything happened in just a matter of few seconds. Well, let's wait then. Chapter 562. Baal offers a deal to the moon goddess. Half an hour later. Groaning in pain, Alosis slowly woke up and found himself on the ground. His physical injuries were all healed up, automatically by his demonic energy, but the mental injury that Mark placed on him caused him to shiver at the thought of it. Just as he was praying that everything was just a dream, he heard the voice of Mark from behind. "You finally woke up, Alosis." Alosis involuntarily sprung upon his feet and turned around and saw the human, sitting on a glowing, exquisite throne that befits a king. While he was at it, he saw the human was also drinking something from a large cup. Taking a sip of coffee from the mug, Mark looked straight into the eyes of the demon standing before him. "So, what now, Alosis? You have lost. Now will you honor the bet or will you go back on your words?" Alosis clenched his fist and took a glance at the spear on the ground, not far away from him, and then at Mark for a few times, before he went down onto one of his knees and placed his fist on the ground. "Master." Ho ho ho, demons are sure easy to handle compared to the humans. Mark maintained his calm demeanor on the surface, but there was a tiny figurine size that resembled Mark dancing inside his head, shouting loudly, "Yay, yay, a 12-circle realm slave. I can control him means I can also get to control his army, la 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 la." After a while, ding, you formed a contract with Alosis. Ding, absorbing the scroll of Alosis. 5 minutes later. Ding, scroll of Alosis has been transformed into skill. Ding, summon Alosis skill has been added to the skill list. Summon Alosis max. The user can summon the Demon Lord and the Great Duke of Ars Gosha, Alosis, from the Netherworld with his full strength. Cost, 1 year of lifespan per hour. CD, none. Note, no cost is required if the summon location is in Netherworld. The cost will be reduced accordingly if the summon location is in a place filled with demonic energy, i.e. a place inhabited by demons. The cost will multiply accordingly if the summon location is in a place filled with divine energy, i.e. a place inhabited by divine beings. I should have expected it, but that is all right. Mark wants to facepalm himself for rejoicing prematurely, but eventually, he convinces himself that at least he can summon the demon with his full strength. Not to mention, his lifespan increases as he enters the demigod realm, and this would become his greatest asset when he becomes an immortal. Meanwhile, thousands of kilometers away, above the endless sea of lava, Chang, the moon goddess, was seen battling a demonic beast that looked a bit like a giant centipede, but could move freely in the endless lava sea. She was hovering in the sky, breathing heavily while keeping an eye on the lava sea below her. Damn this insect. It was too cunning. I don't know how long it takes to defeat it. But at the same time, I cannot leave its domain until I defeat it either. She was muttering under her breath as she was releasing cold gusts of wind through one of her palms continuously to cool down the temperature in her immediate surroundings. The heat emitted from the sea of lava was proven to be a difficult opponent for her. The other palm was also constantly conjuring ice spears, launching at the invisible barrier, 100 meters above her head. After concentrating on one spot for a whole hour, while dealing with the beast's random attacks from time to time, she finally managed to see a crack on the barrier. Chang couldn't help but rejoice. Finally, I think I can escape this place instead of wasting time on this insect. She stopped cooling down the air around her and bore the intense heat. Her concentration was no longer on the lava sea, and she went with a big attack for the first time in the past 45 minutes. Almost half of her energy reserves were consumed as she blasted an ice beam into the sky. aiming at the crack. Gruh! Pyrochilus, the infernal arthropod monarch, rose from the sea once again and opened its mouth, attempting to swallow the goddess. Ting! A sound resounded in the surroundings as the ice beam destroyed the barrier. At the same time, SHT. Chang's face turned serious with a bit of panic with her body was struck with some kind of toxic gas. The centipede's mouth was almost about to swallow her. She concentrated on releasing her remaining reserves of energy in the form of an explosion to blast its head. But it was then 3 scarlet beams came from the sky and struck the beast simultaneously. Graja! The centipede let out a painful roar before retracting back into the sea. Chang raised her head to stare at the sky. Her eyes fell upon a demon floating in the sky. It had long spider legs but had 3 heads. One resembled a cat, one resembled a man, and the last resembled a toad. In terms of appearance, one can only term it as hideous. Why is he here? Chang was taken aback by the figure appearing in her sight. At the same time, she couldn't help but frown upon sensing its strength. I cannot see or sense Shang Zhen anywhere nearby. So he came here alone. That doesn't sound like good news. He is in the same realm as me, but I cannot display my full strength in this realm. Without the orb of time, I'm not a match for his strength. Must I use it here? Unless I'm sure I can kill him with this, I cannot take it out. This treasure might attract the other demon kings too. Calm down, Chang. Let's see how this plays out. He helped me earlier, so I can at least give the benefit of the doubt. The 3-headed demon slowly descended as Chang slowly ascended. As they met face to face in the sky, the former opened his mouth, through the man's head, coming directly to the matter. You are here at the same as Lu Zhen. I suppose both of you must have teleported to this realm together. Chang calmly nodded as she dispelled the last bit of remaining toxic gas in her system. Yes. Demon King Baal continued to ask, what was your purpose? Chang calmly answered, I merely tagged along with Immortal. Lie, hissed the cat head. Its eyes seemed glowing in yellow. The man head then let out a smile. It's pointless to lie against me, deity of the moon. You neither have the stronger cultivation like the other deities nor have a heaven-defying existence like Lu Zhen. His smile was quite creepy, for his lusty gaze that was wandering her body from top to bottom made her uncomfortable. Chang tried her best to calm her nerves as she answered truthfully this time. My business is with Leviathan. Leviathan. This time it was Baal's turn to get surprised. With your cultivation, you should bring the Jade Emperor to deal with the Guardian, he commented. Chang let out a snort. That is my headache to deal with it. This matter has no business with you. I'll repay your favor some other time, but for now, it is best if you don't get in my way and better focus on your contracted mortal. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, but I have to get in your way, for I have some business with you, replied the 3-headed demon, before increasing his size to at least 100 times. As Chang was startled by his sudden move and moved back to maintain distance, Baal continued, Let's make a deal, deity of the moons. Hand me the divine essence of your soul and I will assure your protection in this realm. Reject it and I shall take it by force. My divine essence. Chapter 563. Marbas the Demon Healer. The soul essence core is something one attains when they reach the Saint Realm, 12 Circle. While it says soul essence core, in fact, it is nothing more than something like a core that stores attributes energy. In general, attribute energy is always drawn out when applying skills. The skills are nothing more than the transformation of attribute energy. Of course, there are certain skills that use nature's power, like Mark's Thunderblast skill or Gravity Dome. However, in general, when people use their special skills, they always bring out their attribute energy from their cells. But every now and then, there will be a genius who manages to bring out their attribute energy from their cells without expending their ether energy. For example, Song Yue's great-grandfather Song Tai and her best friend Lin Zhu. What if one isn't such a once-in-a-century genius then? Then they have to wait until they become a Saint Realm Spirit Warrior, 12 Circle, and form the soul essence. Then all they need is to store it in their soul essence core, which is formed inside their soul, and use it whenever they want. The more one has attributes, the more they have essence cores. Chang is a moon goddess, blessed with divinity. Hence, apart from the ice essence core, she also had a divine essence core. That's where her divine energy attacks come from. What the demon was asked is her essence core itself. Giving it away will not make her cripple or something. However, it will take time to rebuild the essence core, possibly 10 years or even hundreds of years. Obviously, she was reluctant to make such a deal. Why do you need it? She had to respond with a question, for his deal followed up with a threat. But will one of the demon kings of Ars Gosha reveal his true intentions and give her the answer she wants to know? Nope. Bale shook his human head as he replied, I'm afraid I cannot say it. Will you agree to the deal or battle me? He stressed her to give a proper reply. Chang stared at the giant demonic creature in silence for a few seconds and broke the silence with a counter deal. I don't need protection from other demon kings. It is not worth it. If you want to showcase your sincerity, then help me with my mission and I will give you the divine essence you desire. If you want me to help you defeat the guardian Leviathan, I'm afraid that's out of my capability, Bale replied firmly, stressing the last set of words as if he wanted her to say that she should forget it. However, Chang surprised him by revealing the truth. My husband's soul is in the hands of Leviathan. Help me free his soul. If using force is meaningless, then use words. I don't care as long as you can free him. Divine Archer How Ye Soul, huh? Bale thought for a bit and retracted his giant form, back to his usual size, followed by transforming into his humanoid form, which reduced his strength even more in order to display his trust. He then gave a nod. If it is just that, I agree with your terms. Chang responded with a frown. I hope you fulfill your word. I don't know what you want to do with my divine essence, but if you try to kill me, then I will destroy it myself before it falls in your hands. Nothing to worry, Miss Deity, Bale smiled, straightened his back, and bowed like a gentleman with one of his hands on his stomach. We demons always honor our deals. Chang shivered involuntarily, feeling disturbed by the sudden change in the demon's behavior. Ah, yes, so where to find that serpent? Before that, we need to meet a certain demon. Back to Mark and Duke Alos's, both of them were flying across the valleys and mountains, non-stop for 2 hours at hypersonic speeds, finally reaching plain grasslands that looked out of the place in a demonic world. It was the closest that resembled a human world. Greenery could be seen everywhere here. Even more strange is that the demons here, instead of fighting each other, were all seen plucking flowers or planting trees. What kind of being was Marbas? Mark couldn't help but ask Alos's as they flew across the grassland, watching down below. He was surprised that demons could be like this too. But Alos's had different opinions from him. This guy is a fool, the scourge of Demonkin. The demonic world respects strength and loves war, but this fool prefers peace and loves to heal the injured. There are so many beasts in this realm that we can hunt down and eat them to gain strength, but this fool loves to eat those things called rice and wheat that only fill the stomach and nothing else. If not for the fact that this guy is protected by Leviathan, he would have been killed by now. But no one wants to incite the hatred of the Guardian. Interesting. Mark got more curious about the demon that loves peace. How did he win the favor of Leviathan? He asked. Duke Alos's explained. We are not sure what happened, but some time ago, Leviathan returned to this realm being heavily injured. Several demon kings are ready to slay it, but Marbas sacrifices his demonic essence to heal some injuries of the Guardian. It averted those power-hungry lords' plans. Marbas didn't finish there. He continued to stay beside the Guardian and slowly healed him for a long time, bringing it to its peak once again. While Leviathan's existence is always a threat to the 9 demon kings, it is also the thing that protects our realm from any kind of invasion from the heavenly palace. We are talking about the being that could fight head-on against even the Jade Emperor, even with its lower cultivation. And you want to form a contract with it. I seriously don't understand what's going on in your head. Mark attentively listened to the entire story, and he had suspicions about that event. If Leviathan is so strong, how come it was injured by Haoyi, who is nothing more than a mortal? Chang said that Haoyi was also its contractor. Perhaps its strength was restricted when it battled Haoyi. When he summoned Baal, the latter's cultivation was also restricted to 2 realms above him. So that is the case then. At the same time, Haoyi was said to be the divine archer, blessed by the Jade Emperor. But he had a contract with such a powerful demon. Could it be possible? Mark's situation is different. He merely had the mark of a deity planted upon him. He doesn't have any blessing of a deity. Maybe someone manipulated the story to hide something. Something is missing in this puzzle, but what is it? Mark wondered. On the way to the secluded on the hill, Mark also learned many things about Marbas to understand his strength as well as his personality. He formulated a plan by the time he reached the destination. He was also confident that he might be able to cut a deal with Marbas, who seems to have an obsession with herbs, fruits, and plants. Imagine his surprise when he saw a powerful barrier erected around the hut and Aloses cried out, "Oh no, Baal's infernal domain. Is he going to kill Marbas?" A what? Chapter 564, Reuniting with Baal and Chang. Infernal domain is the highest kind of domain in this realm, which is exclusive to the 9 demon kings. As it is formed by their life force, it is impossible to break this domain from inside, unless its caster willingly dismisses it or the caster gets killed. What's more terrifying is that the trapped individuals will have their cultivation bases suppressed by a whole realm. Even from the outside, it is durable enough to block Leviathan's attack to a certain extent. Hence, this can also be used as a defensive barrier. The problem is that Baal is known to have only used this barrier when there is an enemy he must absolutely kill. Mark patiently listened to Duke Alos's explanation, leaving Ark to scan the barrier, in order to find out any weak spots. Within 10 seconds, the results came in. Ding, the barrier is weak against divine energy. Of course, demonic energy is hostile to divine energy and vice versa. Mark summoned his divine throne in the form of the submachine gun once again. What are you doing? Duke Aloses furrowed his brows when he saw the weird-looking thing in his master's hand, which gave him a bad smell. But then again, Mark merely used it as a decoy to launch other skills in their battle. Hence, he was also curious about its abilities. As Aloses stepped backward, Mark poured his ether energy into the gun and clicked on the trigger. A kind of buzzing sound escaped the weapon, as a super-thin beam of golden energy launched through its barrel. It attacked the barrier non-stop for 5 seconds, but couldn't put a dent in the end. Aloses. Well, it's worth a try. Mark shrugged his shoulders and put away the weapon, feeling embarrassed inside while trying to do his best to be calm on the outside. He sat down on the grass for the next minute to recover his ether energy. It only takes 70 seconds to fill his reserves, so he wasn't worried about it much and focused on formulating another plan. Ding, Master could use absolute authority on the contracted demon to remove the barrier. Can't you say it sooner? He was racking his brains and the sudden notification almost made him lose his cool. Suddenly, he felt like a fool. Well, it was not a new feeling. He had such experiences in the past. Ark changed the title to Absolute Authority. Ding, the title has been changed. Mark got up and suddenly shouted at the top of his lungs, "Baal, come out." Aloses was startled. Meanwhile, inside the hut, Baal in his humanoid form had his hand tightly grabbing over the throat of a messy blonde-haired demon who wore round glasses and colorful clothes. With this barrier, you won't be able to contact Leviathan for help too. If you can't help us, then there is no use in you keeping alive. Now I'm asking you for the last time. Will you cooperate or not? He almost growled as his eyes were glowing. The demon was trembling in fear. I. Love you. Suddenly, Baal let out a painful groan, freeing Marbas and grabbing his head. Damn this mortal. One of these days I will skin him alive. Baal, come out right now. The sentence echoed in his head as something invisible trying to take away his consciousness. He resisted it somehow and hurried out of the hut before losing his mind. As he got out, he saw a familiar figure standing with his contractor. He immediately dismissed his domain and shouted at Mark, "Now, dismiss that mind-controlling power that you have, Lu Zhen." Alos's mind-controlling power. Change the title back to Master of Holy Beasts, Arc. Ding, the title is changed. Mark smiled, "Sorry about that. I don't have any other way to remove this barrier you kept, and Duke Alos is here told me that you are killing Marbas. He cannot be Kai led, Chang." His smile was replaced by a shock. "What are you doing here?" I mean how did Her Grace end up with Baal here?" He corrected his tone in the end, trying to show calmness on his face. The moon goddess that came out of the hut was also as surprised as Mark. Before Baal replied to him, she directly explained, "Due to some circumstances, I encountered Demon King Baal, and he told me that this demon Marbas could help us in bringing to Leviathan." "That's what Duke Alos has told me to." Mark pointed his finger at the demon lord standing behind him in silence. Him. Chang and Baal momentarily shifted their attention to the Saint Realm demon. While Chang didn't react and returned her gaze back to Mark, Baal narrowed his eyes and fixed his gaze on the demon lord. "I didn't expect a noble demon who hates forming contracts with humans to try to compete with me." Alos averted his gaze with an awkward smile. "It was never my intention, but it is just that." "Just what?" Baal pressed him further as Alos paused. Mark took this opportunity to brag. "I challenged him. He said that he will be my slave for the next 100 years if he loses. He lost the duel." Seriously?" Baal was taken aback this time. He couldn't help but burst into laughter as he patted Alos's nonstop. "Oh my great devil, you have made a great mistake this time, Duke Alos's. Don't you know that their Earth years are different from our demon years? This is why you should frequently visit mortal worlds." How much?" Mark questioned curiously. "You mortals calculate the years according to the time that takes your planet to revolve around its sun, but a year here is calculated by the return of Great Abyss Tower. In your Earth years, on average, it returns for every 245 to 60 years." Mark's eyes widened in realization. "That means—" Baal grinned mischievously. "On average, 25,000 years of servitude." Alos's face went pale all of a sudden and Baal's laughter intensified even more. "Ha, you are doomed. Your master's personality is just as bad as the great devil. His greed knows no bounds and his cunningness to take advantage of the situation is second to Mephisto. You are done for, Alos's, ahahaha." Mark. Chang. Roughly 36 hours later. 3 demons, 1 goddess, and 1 mortal were seen flying above the endless sea of lava. Alos's looked all depressed even after 36 hours. Chang was uncomfortable with the environment. Mark was working with his artificial intelligence to scan everything in 100 km range and mapping out the netherworld. Marbas was leading the group, but still couldn't control his shivering. And Baal was constantly exuding his aura to keep away all those pesky beasts down below at bay. Eventually, everyone's own thing came to a stop, as Marbas descended onto one of the islets of an island group scattered in all directions. As they landed down, Baal enhanced his senses to scan the area, even to the depths of the sea. "I don't sense the presence of Leviathan here, Marbas." He furrowed his brows in displeasure. Marbas bitterly smiled. "If it was that easy to sense it, you wouldn't need my assistance, King Baal." He followed it up by taking out a conch from his storage ring. "This is the Guardian's treasure." He showed it to Baal. Mark instantly activated his Eyes of God skill to check it out. Leviathan's conch, real name not known. Status bound. Type artifact. Equivalent grade, diamond. Uses, likely used to summon the beast associated with the conch, likely the Leviathan. Mark pointed his finger at the conch and asked, "I think you can summon the Leviathan anywhere. Why did you bring all of us here?" Marbas flinched at Mark's question, but before he answered it, Chang opened her mouth instead. "I bet it is because this place is too far from the other regions. So, No other demon king will be alerted by Leviathan's presence. Yes, I cannot take the risk of causing unnecessary casualties, but that's not the whole truth, replied Marbas in a timid manner while glancing at Bale, checking his reaction. He was about to state the true reason, but Bale then said as if he was impatient, "Okay, blow it and call the Guardian." Marbas didn't waste any time in bringing it to his mouth. Paemum. A mighty sound traveled across the sea, and as soon as it died out in around 8 seconds, a portal opened not far away from them, and a half-naked male with vertical slits in his eyes and bluish scales all over his body. "Why did you summon me, Marbas, His tone was filled with annoyance as he spoke to Marbas, but then as his eyes spotted the others, his facial expression suddenly changed, taking everyone by surprise. His powerful scarlet aura released from his body, forming a layer over his skin. "Who ye, you dared to show your face in front of me again?" His voice filled with anger, stupefying everyone for a second. Chapter 565.1 Battle Against Leviathan Part 1. Leviathan. Status: humanoid form. Current rank: peak 13 circle. Est rank in its true form, peak 14 circle. Age: ~7,000 approx. Grade: primordial. Attributes: water. Description: one of the primordial beasts emerged during the creation of the universe. As the one without true death, Leviathan is reborn every time it dies, losing its memories and cultivation it held in a previous life. As the one with the power of water creation, it can endlessly create water out of nothing. The humanoid form of Leviathan was glaring specifically at Mark, mistaking him for the divine archer of the past. "Back then, you might have bested me with your cheap tricks, but this time, it is going to be different," he roared. The anger was evident on his face. While the demons confused his words and even Bale couldn't help but cast a sidelong glance at Mark, Chang hurriedly defended him before the situation went out of control. "He is not the one who you think he is, Hu Yang." Her words instantly attracted Leviathan's attention, especially that name. "It's Yu Chang, the betrayer's shameless wife who stole my prize to become immortal." His gaze of hatred lessened a bit, but it was still there as he looked at the moon goddess. "Mind your words, Hu Yang," Chang frowned, offended by his words. "The elixir of immortality isn't something the likes of a demon can get its hands on. Moreover, you never truly fulfilled your promise of solving the crisis. My husband is the one who destroyed the 9 suns. What did you do other than merely holding back the sun god for a few minutes? Adding on top of that, you purposely killed hundreds of thousands of mortals during your fight with my husband. You certainly don't deserve such a treasure." "Preposterous," he roared, releasing a sonic wave and pushing away everyone. Mark and Marbas blasted away the farthest while Bale was unaffected in the least. Chang, on the other hand, pushed back a few meters, but that's it. Meanwhile, Aloses flew back in the direction of the wave to catch Mark in midair, hundreds of meters away. This is why I was against meeting the Guardian. Why do you have to insist, Master Lu? You are seriously tired of living, and now you will drag me to the death with you," Duke Aloses scolded Mark without holding back. Mark spat out a mouthful of blood and wiped his mouth. "He is too strong." Chang flew into the sky and took out the orb of time, getting ready to battle. Bale witnessed it and his eyes widened in realization. "That's a cosmic orb that reeks of time. No wonder she decided to give me her divine essence. What a cunning goddess." Meanwhile, Leviathan glared at Chang. "So, you have come prepared, Chang. But this won't be enough to take me down." Chang replied, "I'm not here to take you down. I want my husband's soul back. Release him and I will go in peace." How ye soul?" This time it was Leviathan's turn to be taken aback by her words. He took a glance at Mark and then at her, letting out a grin. "If you can defeat me, I'll give you the answer. But you must have something to lose, right?" Leviathan's hand was stretched to the side. A powerful suction force erupted from his palm, traveling in a narrow straight path and striking Mark. The latter opened his inventory and was about to take out the divine throne to raise his cultivation temporarily, but found himself flying toward the enemy, unwillingly without being able to put up resistance. Just 2 seconds passed away and Mark's neck was in the hands of Leviathan, taking everyone by surprise. I won't even transform into my true form. If you can't defeat me despite it, then this mortal will be killed under my hands. Leviathan then freed Mark from his grip, but poured demonic energy around him, imprisoning him in a floating barrier. Cough, cough. This damn snake, Mark was angered. He swiftly took out the divine throne that was in the form of a machine gun from his inventory and roared in his head, "Arc, open skill list." Chang gritted her teeth. "You evil fiend." She poured her divine energy into the orb, almost consuming a quarter of her reserves, and unleashed the ability of the orb, freeze. The entire world was frozen in time. Leviathan, Baal, Marbas, Mark, and Aloses, every single one of them just frozen in their places as the orb glowed in bright green. Chang, the only one who could move in this situation, took this opportunity to rush forward and conjured a sword made of pure divine energy, using another quarter of her reserves in the process to cleave off the barrier into two, thereby freeing Mark and grabbing him in the end. A moment later, the time was unfrozen. Mark found himself in the embrace of the goddess while she created distance between them and the enemy. "Ah!" Mark screamed in surprise as he suddenly saw the goddess face up close. She freed him and he floated in the air. "Are you all right?" she asked, letting out a heavy breath. Mark looked at her and then the Leviathan, who didn't have much reaction except for a deep frown on his face. "You used the orb to free me?" he asked. Letting out another deep breath, Chang nodded. "Yeah, although using this is too energy-consuming. My reserves were already cut to half." Mark was stunned for a moment. "No need to thank me. I got you here. Keeping you safe is my responsibility," Chang let out a pleasant smile. However, in the next second, the smile wiped off her face as Mark suddenly shouted as if he was frustrated. "You idiot goddess! You wasted half of your reserves for a stupid thing. You lost your golden opportunity to win this fight. Now, he will be prepared against the orb of time." "Idiot?" Chang's forehead veins popped up, and his sudden change of attitude triggered her. "How dare you call me that, you ungrateful mortal? I saved your life and you pay me back with an insult." Mark argued back, raising his tone even further while pointing his finger at Baal, who stood there on the islet like a statue. "I had a contract with that guy. He won't let me die anyway. Even if he doesn't help, I have certain trump cards to escape with my life. Why else would I come here? Do you think I put my life in your hands? Moreover, if you had the power to cut off that prison barrier, you should have simply aimed at Leviathan's neck instead, when he least expected. This battle would have ended by now." "That much power won't be enough, you foolish mortal," Chang shouted back like a triggered woman, without caring about her identity as a graceful goddess. Mark counter-argued. "Then you should have used more reserves, go all out, or should have stabbed his eyes to make him blind. You lived for thousands of years and a deity, for God's sake. Don't you at least have that much battle awareness?" Everyone felt strange about Mark's sudden change of attitude. Sure, he could be frustrated that the moon goddess might have missed a good opportunity because she put her priorities on saving him, but isn't he going too far? With no surprise, his words only increased Chang's anger even more. "Argue, you are so annoying." In a fit of anger, she made a fist and gave a punch to his abdomen, blasting him dozens of meters away. Fortunately, as Mark's cultivation has temporarily improved to the immortal realm, he didn't feel much pain but surely calmed down a lot. Of course, that doesn't mean he agrees with her. Instead, his impression of the goddess only fell down. Gazing at her from far away, he shouted at the top of his lungs, "This is your true face, Chang. I think that Hao Yi guy gave you the immortal elixir and sent you away to the moon to escape your violence. Now that he was far away, he even trolled her." Chang's face turned beet red in anger. Suddenly, she felt regret for making a deal with this fellow. Someone who had contracts with demons might have a shitty personality. She concluded it that way. "Leviathan, Aloses, Marbas. Now if you two stop your quarrel, let's get back to the matter, shall we?" Baal took charge, feeling annoyed by his teammates' actions in front of a formidable enemy. He slowly flew in the air and went near Leviathan. "Your Grace, there is no need for violence when it can be solved through words. Can't you just release Hao Yi's soul?" Chapter 566.2 Battle Against Leviathan, Part 2. As one of the 9 demon kings of the realm, Baal's words had a certain weight. Even the mighty Leviathan could not ignore them. Leviathan had to respond to his proposal, but he didn't have any intention to reel their conversation in a positive direction. As a result, he responded by intensifying his demonic aura. "I don't care what kind of relation you have with Chang and Hao Yi's reincarnate, but my hatred with them runs deeper than the depth of infernal abyss. So if you value your life then, take Marbaz and the other demon with you. Or else, all of you will die here." Leviathan was speaking in a demonic language, instead of Orlan, a universal language that deities brought to almost every significant civilization since the beginning. Mark and Chang had no idea what Leviathan said, but he saw Baal transformed into his true form, and Marbaz started shaking in fear. Alos's also became serious, and he started flying toward him. He could ask this demon lord, but it doesn't matter anymore as Baal had already made his move. The 3-headed demon separated into 4 demons. The human one retained his humanoid appearance, and the remaining turned into a cat, toad, and a spider, all of them in the mid-13 circle realm. As the 4 demons swiftly took their positions, surrounding Leviathan in 4 directions, Leviathan frowned. "Since you paid no heed to my warning then, you might as well die with the rest." Baal's humanoid form stretched his hand above his head, shooting a beam of demonic energy into the sky. As the rest of them followed the suit, he conversed in the demonic language. "I may not be a match for your strength, but I'm sure enough to not leave you unscathed. My siblings will seek vengeance for my death later on, so I shall ask you for the last time. Guardian Leviathan, I request you to fulfill Miss Chang's wishes and release her husband's soul. There's no need for this fight. Once I get what I want from that moon deity, you can have her and the mortal." Leviathan responded by conjuring a sword made of demonic energy. "Even if you children of the great devil all come together at me, you are not a match. So, weigh your options carefully before unleashing that skill. The moment it descends, you will be my enemy." Baal stared at it and growled, "So be it." Descent of Velkazar. Baal's voice hollered across several kilometers, unleashing one of his greatest techniques. A magenta-colored giant dragon vertically descended from the clouds. It neither has limbs nor wings. All it has are horns and whiskers. Regardless, its appearance doesn't matter as even Chang flew away at least a couple of 100 meters from Leviathan, in fear of being impacted by the collision. The attack has even surpassed the God realm. It was in the true God realm, 14 circle. However, Leviathan was calm and collected. "You have made your decision." Brandishing his sword, he zoomed into the sky at blurring speeds. The dragon and Leviathan's demonic energy sword collided in the sky, generating powerful waves of energy that pushed away everyone. The sea of lava was also affected, sending huge waves in all directions. Some of it was splashed onto Mark's skin as he blasted away further. Mark received mild pain and some first-degree burns, but he didn't care about it, for his attention was on Leviathan, who remained unharmed and floating in the sky. With his hair gone loose, with the sword in his hand, he looked like some kind of bloodthirsty butcher. "FK, there is no way to beat this enemy. We can only focus on survival." He understood it at one glance. Mark couldn't help but speak to the artificial intelligence. "You have already mentioned it, but let me ask you once again. Ark, do all kinds of teleportation work?" Ding, yes, unless the target locks down the area with domain. Master can return home with return skill. Master can return to the Green Hill Marba's home through teleportation or long teleportation skill, or escape to a random location by using teleportation skill, but without the assistance of the system. Even if he unleashes a domain, it is still made of matter. That means I can still make an opening to escape as long as I unleash antimatter to that barrier wall, muttered Mark under his breath, as an afterthought. Ding, I cannot give an opinion without analyzing the domain in question, but judging by other domains Master has faced so far, the domain unleashed by the Leviathan is likely to be durable enough to withstand at least 50 zeta joules of energy. On the safe side, Master should produce at least 50,000 kilograms of antimatter to crack a hole in such domain. SHT, I forgot about the durability of the barrier. Mark was aware that he cannot produce such a huge amount of antimatter. Well, I guess my only choice would be throwing unnamed at the barrier from far away, but I would have to leave it down here if I escaped. Why go through all that trouble? Let's get back to the Moon Palace and escape with my sister, leaving her here. But she helped Xiao Jiao and me. All she wants is to release her husband's soul so that he reincarnates and probably reunites with her later on. Returning betrayal for a favor is against my ethics. What to do? An idea suddenly popped up in his head, but when he spotted Chang join the battle and saw the result, he shook his head. Nope. Divine energy doesn't seem to hurt it much. I guess it is because it is not exactly a demon but a primordial with demonic nature. This doesn't. He raised his head to look at the sky. A few seconds ago, Bale was planning on creating another attack. He saw Chang suddenly appear before Leviathan, out of nowhere, with a thick layer of divine energy around her fist as she punched the enemy. His cheek was bruised, but Leviathan didn't move an inch. Only his face was turned away by the force. Weaker. Turning his face back to Chang, whose face went pale with the failure of her ambush, Leviathan clenched his fist tightly and punched her in the abdomen. Pudge. She spat a mouthful of blood as she blasted away. However, her facial expression changed. All of a sudden, she was earlier in a panic state, but while blasting away, she was smiling for some reason. The most possible reason could be the talisman with a mysterious design in her hand that disintegrated completely. Bale's human form rushed back and caught her, landing on a nearby islet. This is why I was against a battle with the Guardian, Bale commented. Looking at her face, he further said, if you want to live, then leave this place. We have to lure it into the mortal plane to defeat it. Bale's plan is to suppress Leviathan's realm before taking any action. The best place would be the mortal plane of existence. However, it is a challenging task too. But Chang shook her head, rejecting the plan right away. No, that won't be needed. The help has already arrived. Taking heavy breaths, Chang slowly pointed her finger at Leviathan. As Bale turned his head, he saw a tiny portal appeared in the sky. Leviathan also seemed to be ignoring, and then paying attention to the sky. Soon, a dazzling figure enveloped by the golden divine energy slowly flew out of the portal and stopped, staring down below. Leviathan, the figure spoke, its voice filled all over the surroundings. Leviathan frowned. Yuanlong. Yuanlong, the first primordial and the guardian of the heavens, is here, Chang spoke to Bale. She added, I didn't use Orb of Time to just freeze the time, you know. Chapter 567. Yuanlong, the guardian of the heavens. For a while, the battle came to a standstill, as the mysterious figure slowly descended to the altitude where Leviathan was floating. For Mark, who stood hundreds of meters away, even with his enhanced vision, it just looked like a ball of light. But for the nearby ones, it appeared as a beautiful woman, wearing white clothes and a golden tiara on her head. Just like Leviathan, her eyes also have vertical slits. The figure who was known as Yuanlong took a glance at Bale and Chang, who stood together side by side. Chang, I gave you the life-saving scroll to summon me when the outside forces invade your home and steal away the elixir of immortality, not in a demonic world. Chang was surprised and had her head hung down by the scolding. Yuanlong didn't finish there. She continued to scold her, and what are you doing with these evil fiends? This time, her glare was aimed at Bale, who flinched involuntarily, feeling fear in his heart. She then glanced in the direction where Mark was floating beside Alos's and once again scolded Chang. And how dare you drag the human here without bringing him to me? You should be ashamed of your actions. In the previous scolding, it appeared like a pass-off comment. This time, the displeasure was evident in her tone. Chang knelt on the spot and cupped her fists. Forgive me, Your Grace. The human is linked to the demon king on my left. He is the only way for me to get back my husband's soul from that evil Leviathan." Yuan Long didn't react to her statement and shifted her attention to Leviathan. "This is your territory. I won't interfere in your business. Let bygones be bygones. I will take the human child and Chang back with me." "Heh?" Leviathan smirked at her words. He folded his hands to his chest and tilted slightly as he replied, "If you were here with your true body, I might have listened to your request. But you are nothing more than an astral projection. Do you think you have the ability to bend down my will?" Leviathan followed it up by transforming into a gargantuan serpent, shaking the hearts of the spectators. Its scales shimmered with deep blues and greens, massive fins protruded along its spine, and as it roared, several lines of its razor-sharp teeth were spotted by Mark, even from far away. His heartbeat rose to the peak and his legs stiffened, giving him an indication to run away as fast as possible. Let's. At that moment, he didn't care whether Chang died or lived. He just wanted to escape. But in the next moment, the dazzling figure was also expanded to hundreds of times, blocking the sight of Leviathan with even bigger size. However, unlike Leviathan, Yuan Long's entire body is coiled in several loops. Its body is adorned with pure golden scales, and the aura emitted by the serpent brings a sense of peace to Mark and Chang. However, for demons like Baal, Aloses, and Marbas, it was a poison. Baal managed to bear it, bringing up his remaining forms and transforming back into his original three-headed demon. Aloses didn't even hesitate to abandon Mark and grabbed a fainted Marbas, flying away from there with his peak speed. Mark didn't follow them and instead watched the back of the golden serpent in a daze, until the unaffected artificial intelligence took the opportunity to display its stats on a holographic screen. Status: Astral Projection. Age: VNA. Rank: Peak 14 Circle. Grade: Primordial. Attribute: Divine. So I guess we were saved. Next second. Nope, we are going to die. Blizzard wings. Mark's facial expression changed, watching both serpents literally clash their heads against each other, creating a tremendous amount of waves of energy on all sides. Baal and Chang blasted away hundreds of meters, and so did Mark even after conjuring icy wings and covering himself like a shield. "Baal, both of you come here. I have a plan." Mark passed a telepathic message to the Demon King as he flew back at least a couple of kilometers to create enough distance to be safe from the battle. As the gargantuan beasts grew pairs of hands from their bodies at the same time and wrestled, Baal and Chang flew toward Mark at their top speed, reaching him in no time. "Ha ha ha, didn't expect Leviathan to be so strong," Chang commented, taking heavy breaths. After her divine energy reserves became empty, the environment of the demon world and the lava sea below her became even more troublesome for her. Adding on top of that, the stamina consumption of using the cosmic orb twice is huge. As she wasn't bonded with it and its true owner, Shang Jiao was too far away from the orb. Looking at her miserable state, Mark couldn't help but comment, "In our mortal terms, we call your situation as, you shot yourself in the foot." "SHT up, I don't want to hear insults from you anymore," Chang snapped at him. Mark blinked his eyes in surprise. "Don't tell me you still haven't figured out that I was faking it earlier." As Chang looked at him, Baal smirked. "Obviously, your acting wasn't that great, Lu Zhen. You purposely fought with her to remove yourself from Leviathan's view as a possible hostage. Anyone can easily see through it." "Well, Leviathan was certainly fooled," Mark shrugged his shoulders. Is that the case?" Chang wondered out loud, making Baal and Mark abruptly turn their heads to look at her. Chang blushed in embarrassment and averted her gaze. "All right, fine. I thought you were genuinely looking down on me because my powers seemed useless here and I overestimated myself. Moreover, your words were too sharp." Mark let out a sigh and replied, "Your Grace, you have wasted half of your divine energy just to free me. Surely, if I stay there, your focus will be diverted entirely to protecting me. Since Baal is also contracted to me, Leviathan will take full advantage of it and use it against both of you." After a brief pause, he added, "But I didn't expect you to have such a trump card with you. I never planned on using it, but Leviathan's strength is greater than I expected, and I thought we won't get away from here with our lives. So, I had to do it, replied Chang, letting out a deep sigh of helplessness. She then gazed at the wrestling giant beasts that were just pulling and pushing against each other. Anyway, Demon King Baal told me that you have a plan that will work. What is it? She asked. Mark closed his eyes, transforming the submachine gun into an exquisite sword with a thought before tossing it to Chang. Chapter 568, Unexpected Ambush. As he caught its handle reflexively, a trace of surprise appeared on her face. This, I can sense pure divine essence inside, one that is void of the soul, but its purity could be compared to the Xunyuan sword, the greatest sword under the heavens. Just by grabbing it, my divine energy's recovery has sped up multiple times, and that pressure from this realm has completely disappeared from my body. I can even fight with my full strength now. What weapon is this? It could even change its appearance. Her face was filled with disbelief. Mark didn't tell her anything about it and simply said, "Just lending it to you for now. I need you to fly back to both of them while cutting down those remnant energies on the way." And he then glanced at the Demon King, who made a disgusting face in its presence and stepped away. "I need both of you to reach around 1 kilometer high, above those beasts." "Okay, but what's your plan?" Baal frowned. If Yuanlong wasn't there, Baal wouldn't have to worry, but its presence is putting enormous pressure on his soul. The fact that Yuanlong hates demons doesn't help it either. Going near them at the moment means a significant risk of death for him. To which Mark simply smiled. "Just trust me and go. With the majestic helper keeping him at bay, we cannot miss this chance." "All right, fine." Both Chang and Baal, despite being oblivious to his plan, trusted his intelligence and charged into the sky. As they neared, Yuanlong shouted, "Don't come near and stay away." They didn't heed her warning and just flew toward them. Leviathan put more strength in his hands and pushed away Yuanlong a bit before aiming at them with his mouth. "Die." A blast of energy flew toward Chang and Baal. The Demon King responded by shooting 3 beams from its 3 heads, striking the energy blast at the same time. Chang then swung the sword by pouring her mana into it, what other people call the ether energy outside the mortal plane of existence due to the lack of ether crystal concept. The sword turned her mana into divine energy, cutting down the remnant energy blast. Almost reaching their destination, roughly 800 meters away in the sky from the beasts, which towered hundreds of meters, Baal sent back the reply to Mark. Mark, who was observing the 2 moving dots everything from far away, nodded with a smile. "All right, let's do this." His eyes shifted to the holographic screen, displaying the elemental skills, which he never bothered to use to their full potential as no situation ever arose. He clicked on a certain skill in the space section. Location swap Baal, he disappeared. Suddenly, Baal appeared where Mark was floating earlier and Mark appeared beside Chang, startling her. "Kaya." Location swap. Swap the locations with the target as long as the target isn't 2 realms above the user. If contracted beast or demon, no such requirement is needed. Cost: none. CD: 60 seconds. "You scared me." She playfully punched his chest. "Couldn't you have warned me beforehand?" "Haha, sorry." Mark grinned like a fool, rubbing the back of his head. As he stopped, he saw her face. His eyes wandered on their own. For the first time, Mark felt like this moon goddess' actions were a bit cute. His eyes suddenly fell upon her lips. "I want to bite them." "Snap out of it, idiot." He quickly shook away his thoughts and took out a metallic brocade box from his inventory. "What is it?" Chang couldn't help but ask. Mark replied with a question. "How much of your divine energy has been replenished?" "Not much, around 10%. "Can you bless this box with it?" he requested her. Chang didn't know what he was planning with his ordinary-looking box, but she poured her divine energy into the box, bestowing it with the property of divinity temporarily. Mark heard from Yujiang, the guardian of the mortal plane, that every deity had such ability. Mark knew she too had it. Grabbing the glowing box, Mark scrolled down the list and clicked on another skill. Density manipulation. Manipulate the density of a target from 0.2 to 200 times. Cost, none EP. CD, none. Density manipulation, 200 times. Gravity dome, 200 times. Gravity dome put enormous pressure on the surroundings, instantly attracting the attention of both Yuanlong and Leviathan for a moment. However, their bodies don't feel the pressure that Chang was feeling. Fortunately, the return of her full strength enabled her to resist it too. A faint glow of black appeared on the box, over the golden aura, increasing its weight by 200 times before it was thrown down with everything Mark had got. He used all of his energy reserves to increase his throwing speed. Despite the fact that the sword was in Chang's control, as it is near to Mark, its passive effects applied to Mark as usual, raising his cultivation by 2 realms temporarily. With 11.9 points of strength, Mark's full-powered throwing speed had long crossed the required Mach 40. It touched as high as Mach 70 as it descended like lightning, striking Leviathan's back before it even got to react to the unknown object it sensed a fraction of a second ago. All it took was 0.26 seconds to strike the target, before releasing 3 times his expected energy release, enveloping not only Leviathan but also Yuanlong that was in the radius. Kinetic energy, heat energy, sound energy, and even electromagnetic energy. Several types of energies were released, pushing away Mark and Chang to even higher altitudes, Yuanlong to slide several hundred meters away, and Leviathan to be submerged under the sea of lava while being crushed under the weight of the box. Gravity dome was also nullified at the same time. Mark, who helplessly flew away without feeling much strength in his right arm, was eventually grabbed by Chang and slowly flew down toward the islet near Yuanlong, who transformed back into a humanoid dazzling female, enveloped by a thick golden aura. "You did it, Shang Zhen," Chang rejoiced on the way, as the beast didn't resurface although still in the sea. Mark, with his arm over her neck, weakly responded with a smile. "I told you, didn't I?" It was at this moment that Yuanlong's voice echoed in their ears. "Careful." Huh? Before Chang reacted to it, claws were seen pierced into Mark's back and came out of his body from the front. "Love you." Mark spat out blood. Chang's facial expression was frozen in shock as Mark flew away. As she turned her head, she saw Leviathan in a humanoid form with Mark hanging in between its claws motionlessly. "Ding, your heart is damaged, attempting to control the blood circulation. Ding, your lungs are damaged, attempting to circulate the airflow. Ding, energy is insufficient. System is going to shut down in 10 seconds. Mark stopped breathing. Screech. Chapter 569, Reincarnation of Howie. Ha 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 ha. Do you think you are the only one who can do astral projection, Yuanlong? Leviathan bursts into laughter as he retracts his claws. The large body beneath the sea of lava disappeared and transformed into energy, flowing back to a humanoid-looking Leviathan. "No," Chang shouted in despair and charged forward with the sword. Leviathan's other arm was stretched toward her. Yuanlong appeared in between and punched it away. Meanwhile, Mark's lifeless body reached Leviathan and he grabbed his delicate-looking face. "Poor Howie. Thought he could defeat me with his weird tricks, but only get himself by me once again, ha ha ha. Well, satisfying." "Wah, what do you mean?" Chang asked with her gaze on Mark, her voice shaking as her senses no longer being able to sense life in the mortal. "I never had your husband's soul, Chang." Leviathan looked very happy, watching Chang fall into despair and Yuanlong frowning too deeply. He rejoiced in their sadness, speaking. "I attempted to imprison his body and soul, but his bow got in the way and let its master's soul escape, replacing him as the prisoner." Following up his words, he summoned a dazzling bow, burning in eternal flames. Leviathan continued, "I must say it really loves its master. Look at how it was enraged that its master died again. Ha ha ha." He tightly grabbed the bow as its flames glowed even brighter. "I bet Yuanlong must have also realized it. Is this why he is so interested in taking that mortal away? I wonder." Chang turned her head in a stiffened manner to look at the divine serpent. The latter responded seriously. "I had suspicions of it from the moment he stepped in my abode. He reeked of Hao Yi's aura and even Yan Dai's aura. That is why I ordered you to test him so that I could confirm that he is the reincarnation of Shenggong, the divine bow of Hao Yi, which was also once held by Yan Dai. Unfortunately, I couldn't confirm it before as he never displayed his truest abilities. But earlier, after sensing the presence of Shenggong inside Leviathan, I realized that he was not Shenggong. The only way this could make sense is that he is Hao Yi's as well as Yan Dai's reincarnation. More precisely, their souls were merged for some reason. Merged souls, Chang looked at Yuanlong in wonder. The divine serpent nodded. Since the dawn of creation, many souls have been merged and many souls have been split into several parts. It is not an uncommon situation. After a brief pause, she added, "Good thing is that his soul is still inside the body. We can resurrect him if we take him to the altar of life." Yuanlong's words returned hope to Chang's face. She couldn't help but gaze at Mark's lifeless body once again in worry. "Hello, did you forget my existence or something? You have been talking with each other for so long." Leviathan cleaned his ear with his little finger. After gaining their attention, he swung his arm away. "Good luck with saving his corpse then." Mark's corpse flew down to the sea of lava at hypersonic speeds. No, Chang's panic returned once again. Yuanlong placed her hand on top of Chang. Divine energy flew into the body, recovering her reserves in an instant. "Go and get his body, Chang. If his corpse melted completely, there is no way to resurrect him again." Chang dived down while attempting to unleash her ice techniques, but just before she touched the surface of the lava, a barrier materialized all of a sudden, halting her movements. Infernal domain. A sphere-shaped barrier trapped Chang, along with a three-headed demon, which somehow made its appearance there out of nowhere without alerting anyone. "Ho, you are now helping me, Baal." Leviathan glanced to the down. Baal in his three-headed form appeared below, standing in front of Chang. Baal replied, "Of course, with the death of that human, my contract with him became null. I want a human who is a troublemaker but not the one who constantly brings trouble to me. Moreover, I don't think they are a match for you, and neither I'm a deity to take their side if I was given a choice. Just make sure Yuanlong doesn't break my domain, and I will end this little moon deity for you." "Haha, good, very good." Leviathan rejoiced even more as he threw his fist at Yuanlong at a sudden increase in speed. "I don't like domains, but I'll help you." As Yuanlong was pushed away, blocking the punch with her arms crossed at her chest, Leviathan's eyes glowed in sapphire blue, unleashing another domain, locking down 100 kilometers on every side while just excluding Baal's domain so that Yuanlong wouldn't interfere. Yuanlong's divine glow disappeared and so was Leviathan's energy. He then said, "The rule of this domain is simple, Yuanlong. No mana, no elemental control, no true forms too." "You despicable," Yuanlong clenched her fist. Her face is filled with anger. Meanwhile, Chang charged at Baal. "Die, you ingrate." Her voice was filled with hatred. Until a while ago, they were teammates. Now they suddenly became enemies. After getting to know the truth from Yuanlong and Leviathan, she was even more impatient. And her impatience increased her rage even more, as she was constantly evaded by Baal. With her cultivation reduced by a whole realm by the domain, she was indeed not a match for Baal. However, the divine blade in her hands could injure him. As his intention was just to stall the time, he focused on dodging it, and her attack speed wasn't enough to hit him. The time passed slowly. She was getting tired, but her movements remained sharp and killing intent was so high that it would actually make normal mortals pass out. Evading another set of ice spears she launched at him with his spider legs moving swiftly through the air, he finally spoke. "I think our battle has almost come to an end, Miss Chang." "No, I won't let that happen." Chang halted her movements at once and slowly rose to the middle of the barrier. She resolutely announced, "In that case, I will have to burn my soul essence to temporarily force a breakthrough and destroy this barrier and you altogether." All of her divine energy running through the body went back to its essence. She put her palms together. "No one can stop me from saving him." She was about to follow her words, but it was then Baal hurriedly spoke. No, wait. If you burn your essence, I won't be able to acquire it. How about I change the terms of our earlier contract? I let you go and save Lu Zhen, and you will give me the divine essence soul as promised. Think about it. Even if you cause a sacrifice, you might be able to destroy the domain, but you won't be able to kill me. Not to mention, I could still. I agree. Chang didn't even let him finish his words, agreeing with the proposal. Bale closed his eyes and stretched her palm toward her. Visible blood-colored chains appeared on both of their heads. Demonic aura seeped into them and they disappeared. In the next moment, he snapped his fingers and the domain disappeared. Chang dives into the sea of lava without wasting any time. Meanwhile, at the bed of the sea of lava, Mark was seen lying motionless. However, inside his mindscape, Mark's spirit was seen walking in the direction screeching of a beast was heard by. He reached the destination in the end, stopping at an altar-like thing with a bird in flames being imprisoned by chains made of ice. As he raised his head and looked at the bird, the latter looked back at him and screeched again. Mark's soul neither questioned it nor backed away. He simply flew higher in a daze, as if he was still in sleep. Gazing straight into the eyes of the beast without an ounce of emotion, Mark's spirit raised its hand and touched its beak. The ice chains slowly melted down. The beast, free from its chains, let out a powerful screech one time last time and transformed into scarlet energy, merging with Mark's spirit. A few seconds later, Mark opened his eyes abruptly. Ding, Phoenix Bloodline has been unlocked. Bloodline-related skills are added to the character. Ding, you broke through to rank 10. Ding. Chapter 570, Demigod Realm, Primeval Bloodline, and the End of Leviathan. Ding, Phoenix Bloodline has been unlocked. Ding, Instant Resurrection, Celestial Flare, Flame Burst, and Eternal Flames Bloodline skills are added to the character. Ding, Fire attribute is added to the character, but no skills are added. Ding, you broke through to rank 10. Ding, your lifespan has been extended by 1,500 years. Ding, you received a new function domain. Ding, Phoenix Bloodline skills are upgraded to level 10. Ding, Phoenix Bloodline's ultimate skill, Transformation, has been unlocked. Phoenix Transformation. Transform into an immortal phoenix with stats +1 to your maximum stat for 100 seconds. Note, the user is immortal in this form and has almost instant recovery rate. Cost, 9 billion EP. CD, 72 hours. Ding, Blizzard Pegasus Bloodline skills are upgraded to level 10. Ding, Blizzard Pegasus Bloodline's ultimate skill, Transformation, has been unlocked. Blizzard Pegasus Transformation. Transform into Blizzard Pegasus with stats +1 to your maximum stat for 100 seconds. Note, the user has access to Absolute Zero ability. Cost, 9 billion EP. CD, 72 hours. Ding, all system skills and elemental skills are upgraded to the next level. Ding, elemental skill Gravity attribute. Multiple black holes has been added to the skill list. Multiple black holes. Create multiple black holes with each one not greater than 10 km in diameter. Note, the user isn't immune to the gravitational pull of the created black hole. Cost, 10% ether energy per black hole. CD, 72 hours. Ding, elemental skill Space attribute. Void Rift has been added to the skill list. Void Rift. Tear the space and open a temporary rift, throwing the enemies into it. The enemies that were sent away through the skill will be randomly teleported into space, a maximum of up to 1 light-year distance away. Cost, 100% ether energy. CD, 24 hours. Ding, elemental skill Oil. Abyssal Oil has been added to the skill list. Abyssal Oil. Create a pitch-black primordial oil to attack the enemies. Whatever this corrosive oil touches, it will melt it down to nothing. Note, it only works on items below celestial grade. For people, it will work on targets that are not 2 realms more than the user. Cost, varies. CD, varies. Ding, elemental skill Antimatter. Antimatter Dimension has been added to the skill list. Antimatter Dimension. Create a dimension where you can store antimatter energy or antimatter bodies for 7 days. Note, After expiry, the dimension placed at the location will release all the stored antimatter energy inside, causing annihilation. Note 2. No one but the user can enter this dimension, but it could be destroyed from outside through various means. Cost: 100% ether energy. CD: 15 days. Ding: lightning is a basic attribute. No additional summons are provided. Ding: rank 10 Frost Titan Ice has been added to the summons. Ding: rank 10 Venomous Basilisk Poison has been added to the summons. Ding: you have completed the tutorial. System no longer provides any additional skills or summons for breakthroughs in the future. Ding: you have completed one of the 5 remaining quests, breakthrough to rank 10. You received a mithril-grade weapon helicarrier and unlocked Primeval Bloodline as a reward. Primeval Bloodline, a growth-type primordial beast that has the ability to copy other beasts' abilities even by ingesting a drop of their blood. Current ability: 100. Ding: your ether quality is upgraded to the purest form. Ding: detected weaker quality bloodlines than the Primeval Bloodline, automatically merging with Primeval Bloodline. Ding: all bloodline skills are added under Primeval Bloodline. Their abilities are retained. While more than a dozen notifications continuously rang inside his head, Mark opened his eyes widely. He was about 3,400 meters deep inside the endless sea of lava, and the temperature was about 1,500 degrees Celsius, and yet, he didn't feel a thing. It merely felt like he was sleeping at the bottom of a swimming pool. It actually kinda felt more soothing. Well, that's enough sleep, I guess. It's time for a payback. Meanwhile, outside of the sea, Leviathan was in the midst of an intense physical battle with Yuanlong. He saw everything that transpired a few moments ago, but he didn't want to lose this opportunity to defeat Yuanlong's astral projection. Now that it seemed to be at a disadvantage with its divine power, got cut off by Leviathan's domain. Baal, on the other hand, had his attention on the sea of lava. He was grinning like a fool, mumbling, "Foolish goddess, she fell into my trap once again." Lu Zhen never died. He was perfectly fine since the beginning. The lava beneath only helped him to absorb intense heat to make the breakthrough. Now that the breakthrough happened, I get to have her divine essence. I shall use it to change my body constitution and make the breakthrough as a half-demon, half-divine being, following Brother Lucifer's footsteps. Suddenly, he sensed something deep inside the sea moving upwards at terrifying speeds. Baal moved back as Mark flew out while grabbing a heavily injured Chang by her waist and stopped in the midair. He looked down at the Demon King. "It looks like you are fine, Baal." His words echoed in Baal's ears, taking him by surprise. There's something changed in him, the Demon King couldn't help but wonder. Baal swiftly put away his unnecessary thoughts and smiled. "Welcome back, Lu Zhen." Meanwhile, Chang, whose hands were wrapped around Mark's neck, stared at him in silence. Tears filled her eyes, but she was trying her best not to cry or be emotional. Mark then opened up the skill list and clicked on 1. Summon Thunder Dragon. Roar! A blinding flash of light appeared in front of Mark, followed by a roar. Once the light was dismissed, a giant thunder dragon of the 9-circle realm materialized. Mark jumped high and placed the moon goddess on its head, as 100 million ether points were being consumed every second, although most of it was being recovered by his high-speed ether recovery skill. Since it was only at 9-circle, despite its significant size, it didn't attract much attention from Leviathan, as much as Mark did. But it couldn't move and was trapped by its own domain. Howie! His hatred ingrained deep in his bones forced him to ignore his formidable opponent, who was on the brink of defeat, and released the domain as Mark flew toward him. Leviathan disappeared and instantly appeared in front of Mark, trying to grab his throat. However, just as it was about to succeed, Mark's eyes glowed as he unleashed the bloodline skill. Absolute freeze. Ding, 1 billion EP was deducted. As if he completely mastered the skill, he merely froze Leviathan instead of the whole surrounding. But he wasn't done yet, as he knew that it wouldn't be enough to suppress the beast. He followed it up with a couple of skills while taking out Unnamed from his inventory, which he collected while he was swimming up earlier. Activate Gravity Dome, 1000 G. Activate Density Manipulation, 1000 G. The brocade box received an enormous boost of mass from the density manipulation, followed by the change in gravitational force in the surroundings. 1,000,000 times increase of weight and maintain at least Mach 80 swinging speed. Here we go. Due to the fact that they were contracted, Bale isn't affected by the gravity dome while Chang was lying on top of a Mark summon and didn't get affected by it either. However, Yuanlong and Leviathan felt the effect of gravity increased by 1,000 times. Regardless, it wasn't much of a pressure for them, so Leviathan didn't pay much attention to it. Instead, his eyes were on the box that Mark motioned it backward. It might have been his astral projection with the lower cultivation realm that was slammed by the box, but both of them shared the same memories. His intuition told him that the force behind the box, this time, would be far greater. Leviathan wanted to escape this freezing, but it was too late. The last thing Leviathan witnessed was the black box in Mark's hand, motioning down at his chest at a blurring speed. Bam! A powerful sound echoed in the surroundings. Mark was smeared with lots of blood and blasted away hundreds of meters, as the entire upper body of Leviathan ended up gone, just like that. Meanwhile, Mark faced a recoil from the collision. His bones are shattered, his skin peeled off, and his organs received enormous damage. But he was prepared beforehand for this scenario too. Arc Use, Scroll of Thousand Blossoms. As Bale caught a bloodied figure in hurry, a one-time use item activated by the artificial intelligence, countless petals showered on Mark and Bale, healing his injuries instantly. He looked as good as new. However, Leviathan's blood smeared on him still stuck like glue, as they weren't considered an injury by the healing petals. "You are too reckless, you know that." Bale couldn't help but scold him, while inwardly screaming in surprise. This brat is not afraid of death anymore after resurrected once because of Phoenix bloodline. I like it. He grinned in the end. Yuanlong silently floated in the same spot, watching in a daze. I finally get it now. That box is made of void stones, but how did he acquire it? Which prisoner escaped the void dimension? Meanwhile, all the blood from Leviathan on him slowly seeped into his skin, absorbing its blood cells from it. His bloodline, primeval beast spirit, automatically started replicating the blood cells at a rapid rate, extracting its bloodline faster than one would take a deep and release it. As the rest of Leviathan's body slowly disintegrated into specks of light, a holographic screen appeared before Mark's eyes, giving him the results from the ingested blood sample. Ding! Leviathan's bloodline has been added under the Primeval tab. Ding! Abyssal Resilience, Maelstrom, Tsunami Charge, Ocean Sovereign, and Transform bloodline skills are added to the character. Ding! Water attribute is added to the character, but no skills are added. Meanwhile, on the other side of the netherworld, deep beneath the surface, a large egg was seen burning in flames for a while before it died down eventually. The egg then heavily vibrated for a couple of seconds more and became still. At the same time, far away in the universe, a gigantic beast, dark in color, resembling a sauropod dinosaur but bigger than even planets, was seen moving across space in a leisure manner. It abruptly stopped its path and turned its head to stare in a certain direction. My twin has died once again. I wonder who killed him this time. It stared into the distance for a couple of seconds and started flying in that direction, changing its intended path. Oh well, at this rate, he will never reach his peak stage. I guess I have to go and pick him up and resume my journey. As it passes through a star that's millions of times bigger than its humongous size, the entire blue star gets enveloped by mysterious black energy, turning it into even hotter. Chapter 571, Amulet of Baal. So, you are saying that Yan Dai, the flame emperor of the myths, has reincarnated into someone. Then, Haoyi, Change's husband, was reincarnated into someone else. Then, both of their souls merged somehow and I was born out of it. Yes. Now, as I served the heavenly palace in both of my past lives, you want me to join the palace as one of the apostles of the Jade Emperor, again. In return, I will get a nice weapon, a place to cultivate, and even immortality of elixir when it matures after 845 years. Yes, what a load of bullshit. Does it even make sense? Human, whether you accept it or not, you cannot change the truth. Fine, even if that is the truth, I don't care about it. Because unlike you, I was born out of my mother's womb and my identity will be decided by the physical body I'm inhibiting. The past lives are nothing more than the identities of other bodies, so their actions have no relation to me. Well, that is all right if you wish to think that way, but I can see that one day you will face all of your countless past lives. That day, I hope you will make the right choice. When such day comes, we'll see about it. If there is else your grace, you may return now. I have something to do here in this world. Once I finish it, I will return on my own. Mark, Chang, Bale, and Yuanlong were standing on one of the islands on the endless sea of lava, and Mark was arguing with the divine serpent. Regarding the so-called past life story, she was trying to convince him. Mark, to some extent, believed the story, as only he knew that his soul was merged with Lu Zhen's. If her theory was right, then, he could be Yan Dai's reincarnate and Lu Zhen must be Hao Yi's reincarnate. The fact that Jingwei always addresses him as Papa, because his aura smells like her father, is something taken into consideration. But what if this divine serpent merely noticed that he is a merged soul through some way, and used it to sow a story in order to scout him into the heavenly palace? He just defeated Leviathan in front of her, and there is no doubt she will be interested in him too. So it is likely that this is just her manipulation. Or so, in Mark's opinion. Moreover, if he agrees with his explanation, this moon goddess, who was crazy for her husband, might cause disturbance in his private life. If she could go to the depths of the netherworld to save her husband's soul, even after thousands of years since his death, then she could very well visit the planet and interfere in his life too. While he doesn't have any qualms about taking another wife, who in fact has powerful cultivation and a beauty that even beats his wife's, he cannot give her the love she expects. His heart belongs to only one person, and that is Song Yue. Hence, he cannot marry anyone who could have strong feelings of affection toward him. Because such unrequited feelings often cause jealousy. History has been the witness for many times that a strong woman's jealousy in love often brings nothing but trouble. Keeping all this in consideration, Mark firmly rejected it. But Chang, who is already deeply convinced by Yuanlong, has already changed the way she looks at him, and this troubled Mark more than anything. Hence, he sought the easiest way to solve this issue. Give an excuse to send her away with the divine serpent, not forgetting to request to send his sister back home. Chang listened to his request and quietly left without bothering him, after handing over her divine essence soul to Baal as promised, leaving the two of them in the middle of the endless sea of lava. Once they disappeared, Mark finally paid attention to Baal, inquiring him about the divine essence soul. Mark's performance against Leviathan earned him a lot of respect as well as trust from the Demon King. He didn't leave a single thing out as he explained his goal and how he planned on achieving it. Upon listening to everything, Mark frowned. Your plan is okay, but according to what you have said, during the integration of the essence, your body will be vulnerable. What if you get ambushed by your enemies? Oh, that's not an issue. Baal has already thought of the problem. He replied, I plan on doing it in an abandoned world, far away from the eyes of the heavenly palace or my fellow siblings. Mark went silent for a while and finally mumbled, roughly 10 years, huh? Baal understood the meaning behind Mark's mumble. During this integration time, he won't be answering Mark's call for summons, even though that way was already destroyed accidentally by the system. Without the orb of Baal, Mark had to depend on the summoning scroll demons usually provide to their contracted mortals, but Baal didn't plan on giving him one in the first place, as it is useless. So he did the best thing he could do to please his favorite contracted human, who seemed like he didn't like divine beings. To solidify their trust, Baal took an amulet out of nowhere and handed it to Mark. For the next decade, my legion will be at your beck and call in my absence. I will inform my generals beforehand. so no need to worry about disobedience, not that they would. Mark took the amulet and curiously observed it. At one glance, it doesn't look anything special except for its hideous insignia of Baal's true form. But when he inspected it, Mark couldn't suppress the smile on his lips. Amulet of Baal. Grade Celestial. Description. According to the Book of Solomon's data in the system, the Amulet of Baal is said to be a powerful devil artifact, one that could summon Demon King Baal's 66 legions of demons at any location in the universe. Unless it is in an environment where there is a high concentration of divine energy in the surroundings, the summoned demons will retain their full strength. The summoned demons with not more than one realm above the user will have complete loyalty. Each legion contains one demon general, 12 circle, 6 demon commanders, 11 circle, 60 demon captains, 10 circle, and 6,000 demon foot soldiers, 7 circle to 9 circle. Note: summoning legions of demons consumes a large amount of ether energy and mental stamina from the user. Effect 1. At the current stage, the user can summon one legion of demons under Baal for 60 minutes. Summoning each legion will reduce the time by 10 minutes. Effect 2. Using the artifact, the user can resurrect all the fallen demons back to their peak state. However, the cost of each demon will consume a corresponding amount of life force from the user. The user needs 10,100,000 years of life force to bring back a demon general, 1,500 years of life force to bring back a demon commander, 100-200 years for each demon captain, and 20-50 years for each demon foot soldier. Effect 3. The amulet can be used to absorb the life force from the fresh corpses of living beings and store it, which could be consumed by the user to increase his lifespan, or use it to resurrect the fallen demons instead of using the user's own life force. At the current stage, the stored life force in the amulet is around 51,446 years. Temporary owner, Lu Zhen / Mark Spencer. After he broke through to the demigod realm, a lot of existing data that the system left behind has been unlocked, and the return of description without the need for artificial intelligence collecting it from conversations has been returned. He now didn't even need to scan the surroundings to know what kind of minerals and rare materials were available in the netherworld at all. It was one of the things that Mark missed the most in the absence of the system. Adding on top of that, the amulet's amazing abilities impressed his mood even further. He couldn't help but vigorously shake Baal's hands. "Thank you. With this, my immediate goals will be accomplished in a shortened time." With great excitement, Mark bid farewell to Baal and used the return skill, a spatial skill that lets him return to a fixed place, as long as it was within distance limits. Previously, it was 100 light years, but now it expanded to 5,000 light years. Of course, since the netherworld is in a different plane of existence, all of which are stacked upon each other, there is virtually no concept of distance in the first place. From other planes of existence, every place in a foreign plane of existence is of the same distance. Regardless, Mark returned to his home in an instant, specifically the master bedroom in his mansion. "I'm home." He expected to surprise Song Yue, but the room was empty. Mark got out of the room, only to witness that the corridor was also empty when there should be a couple of robots standing outside. He checked the nearby rooms and found all of them empty too. Even the living room downstairs is also empty. No servants, no robots, nothing. He couldn't but frown, quickly taking out the communication scroll to contact Song Yue. The reply was quick, but Mark's frown only deepened further when he read it. "This, damn it. Teleportation." Mark immediately disappeared and reappeared at the gates of the palace. "One trouble is over and another one is already waiting at my doorstep. Even when I seek peace, they always force me to pick violence. Fine, let's give them that." Chapter 572. You have 4 weeks. Later on that night, Anand Golden Kitten got abducted, Baltro Manticore got killed. All 5 of my rank 9 robots that are deployed here are destroyed alongside a significant portion of my robotic army. Sylvandira and Mom were heavily injured for resisting the enemies, and Lu Zhen was forced to leave with them as a hostage. While this was all going on, that bastard guardian god, Yujiang, didn't make a move. Can anything get worse than this, Sai? Mark doesn't know who to get angry with. Is it his fault for not taking extra steps to secure his family? Is it the moon goddess' fault for putting him through a troublesome quest of hers and wasting his time because of her half-knowledge? Is it the fault of Yujiang, who was supposed to deny the entry of any saint and above-realm cultivator or a beast? Or is it the fault of his sister, who landed herself in trouble in the first place, trying to get the orb of time without consulting him? Many things ran through his head as he was lying on the bed and staring at the ceiling, not being able to sleep. Song Yue and little Lu Zhen, on the other hand, were sleeping in peace. Perhaps Song Yue was affected quite the most by this incident. Even after 4 into the sleep, her hands were tightly around his arm. After thinking thoroughly about how to get back his friends, Zheng and Annan, while making sure to keep his wife and the child safe from any kind of problematic enemies, Mark decided to finish up his old promises. The next day morning, in the king's study room. "You can't be serious." King Shen Niu couldn't control his voice as he heard Mark's decision. "But there are no auspicious dates around," Princess added, with a frown on her face. Mark shrugged his shoulders. "The recent incident made it clear that I have a lot of enemies that I still need to take care of in this place before I go and save my friends. I'm not telling you to hurry up the marriage preparations in a day or 2. I just want you to look for the best date possible for the marriage during this time. After that, I might leave this place for a few years. So it is up to you if you want to marry your daughter to me or wait until I get back." 4 weeks, that's enough time. Shen Niu's eyes lit up instantly. "Leave it to me." He raised his tone once again, but this time it was in excitement. Of course, he was excited. For the past few months, Shen Niu was pestering Mark for the marriage every now and then. Shen Ling, who was still working on pushing for the reforms of removing patriarchy in the kingdom, kept on postponing it in the name of not having auspicious dates so far. She wants to have enough support before the marriage so that, when they officially become husband and wife, she will directly announce her candidacy for the throne. She and Mark made the agreement long ago. Now when he becomes her husband, he would gladly use his power to remove patriarchy in the kingdom and crave the path for her to succeed her father as the first-ever queen regnant. Mark supported her as it is what she wants to do. But the situation has changed, and so were his plans. Shen Ling obviously was displeased by his announcement, without even consulting with her beforehand. But she cannot say anything in her father's presence and can only stay silent, until she escorted him to the gardens with an excuse of spending some quality time together. When they were finally alone in one of the gardens of the palace, Shen Ling inquired about him and expressed her displeasure on the matter too. Mark took a glance around and leaned his head to her ear, whispering his plans for her. "Wah!" Shen Ling's eyes widened and she took a step back in surprise. Now it finally makes sense why Cabinet and the Alliance were established. It was never about SHH. Mark stepped forward and put his finger on his lips. "Some things cannot be revealed before they happen." Shen Ling bloomed into a smile and nodded. "I understand." A few hours later, Mark and his family, Song Yue, Lu Zhen, and Shang Jiao, left the city in their spider ship, a transformation of the divine throne. It might have a scary appearance for the spectators, but he had used it so many times that it had become his symbol. It was necessary to also let it fly at a low altitude, to warn his hidden enemies that he was back, and they shouldn't try anything funny from now onwards. Within no time, they reached Fujian Island, where a familiar-looking little girl was waiting for them. As soon as they stepped on the island, she rushed forward and hugged Mark with all smiles. "Papa." Usually Mark would either pat her head or brush her off, but this time, Mark put his arms around her and responded with a smile. "I'm back, Xiao Wei." Jingwei raised her head with a look of surprise on her face, as she never had been called that way. As her eyes met Mark's, her smile widened even further than earlier. "I missed you a lot, Papa." "Ha, if someone would see this, they think that you had a daughter when you were a teenager, Marky." A cheeky comment came from above. Song Yue was slowly coming down the stairs, carrying her son in her arms. Shang Jiao followed her. "Ah, it is the scary lady and scary baby," Jingwei thought in her head, but her wary expression gave away her thoughts. But then Mark's reaction absolutely blew her mind, so that she forgot all about her wariness toward the chaos element. "She is still the daughter from one of my past lives, my shats. Thousands of years passed away and we still met in the end. Isn't it fate?" Mark replied to her, slightly indicating to the girl that he knew the truth. As Song Yue was surprised this time, Shang Jiao clapped in realization. "Ah, that's right. I remembered the portrait of the moon goddess mortal husband. You look strikingly identical to each other." Song Yue's surprise turned into shock. She abruptly turned her head to look at her in-law. "What did you say?" Mark's face stiffened this time. He hurriedly spoke before Shang Jiao uttered more things. "Nonsense. Reincarnation doesn't give you the same appearance, Xiao Jiao. The bloodline will give it. Most probably both of us are his descendants, and that's probably why she wants to help us out." "Ah, is that so? But I swear she heard addressing you as her dear when she sent me back to the kingdom yesterday. I thought something might have happened back in the netherworld between you two. Maybe I misheard it," Shang Jiao murmured, momentarily falling into her thought. As Mark was worried about Song Yue's uncomfortable expression as if she wanted to say when he would stop chasing after beauties, Jingwei came to Mark's rescue with her comment. "No, Papa is not Haoyi. Papa is Papa's reincarnation. They have the same souls." "Yup, it does look like she could tell because we formed a contract," Mark confirmed his theory upon hearing her comment. "But then again, isn't it funny that I was such a mythical character in my past life? Nah, the current me would wipe the floor off with him." Chapter 573, Project Ultron. 3 weeks later. Day 20, Experiment number 36. Subject, Rank 8 Robot. Mark carefully inserted a 1cm 1cm chip into a cube-shaped core made of titanium alloy. After successful insertion, he placed it on one of his palms and used the other to pour ether energy into it, giving it the necessary power. Soon, all the markings that appeared on the core were filled with blue light, making it seem like a burst of energy trying to escape a maze that has no exit. Once the notification received by Mark about the completion of this step, he went on inserting it into the chest of a Rank 8 robot. Elena, switch on the battery. While the core could be supplied the power through his ether particles as its needed energy, the robot, on the other hand, needed a battery as the power source as it runs on electricity. But creating conventional batteries is a time-consuming task, and he doesn't want to stop the production of his weapons, now that they went into the market a week ago, resuming his business. A store was set up in at least one city of every state of the Alliance, and the grand opening happened a week ago. Things haven't been as smooth as he expected, at least in some states like Eastern Sun, due to Aoyang Zhen's descent to let his public access to the firearms and kill an empire, where the Ming dynasty or its people not being able to get used to a new type of weapons that could actually hurt them if they are not careful. Of course, the Ming dynasty was quick to act. Within just 1 week of its release, Emperor Ming passed an order to put an age restriction on firearms and explosives. Anyways, back to the factory. Mark opted to use electric current-filled scrolls available in the market, each costing up to 3 gold coins, and supplying electricity to at least 5 electric fans and 6 bulbs for a whole day. A scroll can also be used to charge the Rank 1 robot to full. It was expensive for normal people, but for the rich, it didn't cost much. Mark didn't hesitate to use 120 of them at the same time, supplying the electricity to the Rank 8 robot, which had its energy depleted completely on purpose. As a huge amount of current passed into it and charged its battery, causing it to go overload, the excess current automatically made its way to the core inserted in its chest. I have destroyed 35 Rank 8 robots so far. This is the 36th. Due to the incident, I now only have a rank 10 robot, 5 rank 9 robots, and 17 rank 8 robots. Most of the destroyed robots are missing too, along with the weapons given to them. Who knows where they all ended up in? If this ends up in failure, I will lose another prized robot, which is even of a higher grade. Then I would have no choice but to abandon this project. Mark was too nervous at this point, hoping that the rank 9 robot would not be destroyed by the overloading caused by the cube. Due to the fail-safe he built inside, there won't be an explosion, but if all of its transistors, wires, and battery end up dead, the rank 9 robot will become nothing but a lump of titanium and adamantium alloy. 5 seconds passed, 10 seconds passed, 20 seconds passed, and Mark's facial expression changed. After a whole minute, Mark's face was now filled with excitement as he saw the cube continue to glow, integrating with the robot system. Good, so far so good. All we need is now to why. At once the floor started shaking all of a sudden. Mark lost his balance and was about to fall. The robot's dead eyes glowed blue and it disappeared, reappearing behind Mark, catching him in a fraction of a second. Mark's eyes met with its eyes and the robot spoke, "Master, are you all right?" Not only did the robot speak to him when it didn't have any voice modulator, but the voice was also too familiar to him. "Ark," he wondered out loud. The robot helped him to stand up straight and went down to one of his knees like a knight. "Integration successful, Master." "Wait a second. How?" Mark's eyes widened as realization dawned upon him without hearing its explanation. "I created the core and its quantum chip based on the data extracted from your core instead of Elena because yours is superior to hers. Of course, it is going to be your copy. FK, here I thought I could make a new one." The robot rose to its feet and replied, "Master, you lack the proper equipment to build a new one from scratch. You need a computer with specialized software to get started. You don't possess the knowledge to build such a thing. But now, with me here, your creation ability will not be limited to weapons." With Ark acting as my substitute, I think it is possible, thought Mark in his head. In reply, a notification screen floated before his eyes. Ding, now that I was integrated with the robot's nanochip, as long as the core is intact, I can establish a connection with every other robot that has a similar nanochip even from a distance. Essentially, apart from the higher quality robot, rank 10, I could now control every other robot that is 500 meters around my body. However, I recommend building more cores to give intelligence to every robot here, in order to improve work efficiency. Ultron, Mark's eyes lit up. Ever since he got a robot from the system, he always had a fascination with commanding robots like how this character named Ultron did it in a movie franchise, back in his past life. However, after using the robotic army, it didn't feel like it. Instead, he felt more like a necromancer who is using an undead. But with added intelligence to the robot, where its main consciousness lies inside him, he felt like his dream could be achieved. While there was also a worry of losing control over the artificial intelligence that keeps on learning new things, he was confident in destroying them too, with his newfound strength. But it isn't also the time to think about unnecessary things. He felt like this was the time to focus on development. Slightly tweaking his intended plans, Mark then spoke to the robot. "Your name will be Arc Prime from now onwards. I give you permission to name the robots you will give intelligence to." "I understood, Master." The robot placed his arm to its chest and bowed its head slightly. Mark continued, "Your first task is to give intelligence core to all the robots here." "Understood, Master," the robot nodded, but then it replied immediately, "However, I recommend Master to do this task." "Me? Why?" Mark was taken aback by its request. It's day one of its creation and it is already disobeying his orders. The robot clarified by explaining, "When the Master creates the core, the Master's ether energy is being integrated with the core, and I could extract a basic or a variant attribute from it, giving its properties to the robot. This body has inherited the element of space." Following its words, the robot created a set of black portals, one before it and the other 10 meters away. It walked into it before walking out from the other. The FK, you can do that. Chapter 574, Elena and the Old Witch. Mark didn't expect to see this. It was already overwhelming enough for him to realize the potential of replicating the intelligence cores, but this news was even top of it. What makes an android different from a battle robot? Of course, the appearance makes a huge difference, but it is the presence of the core in the android that makes it more special. The intelligence core not only houses the android's consciousness, but also has unique abilities based on how it was created. That's why Elena, Alan, and Ark had different abilities in the first place. The system created them based on what it thought their abilities suited its host the most. But since Ark Prime was created by Mark, who used his own ether energy as the medium, the artificial intelligence Ark's intention here is to maximize the output. So, it went on extracting the best variant element it could do from its ether particles and supplied it to the core, giving it space-based elements. This newfound discovery brought several thoughts to Mark. He broadened his horizons in a matter of seconds as his brain ran faster and faster. Kleb. Ark, I bet if you are upgraded to the next rank, you can extract advanced grade attributes too, right? He inquired inside his head, under the assumption of yes. Ding, I cannot say it certainly without any data on other AIS, but there is a high chance that I could do it. There's still a reward from the system left for me. I could upgrade Ark to rank 8 through Upgrade Crystal. However, I need to expand it more. Including the main branch, I have opened 7 so far, so 3 more are needed. Not to mention, I need to sell at least 1,000 weapons from each. Since there is no system to monitor my process, let's just do it using a loophole process. I need 10 million gold coins of worth transactions through the store, right? Let's complete both quests at the same time. Since it is better to wait until Ark's upgrade, Mark halted the current project and gave another task to the robot, Ark Prime. I want you to work on upgrading the song missile. And Elena. He then looked at the 3-headed robot dog. How far can you track your body's nanochip? Big bro, you want to get back my body? She asked, her voice filled with surprise. As Mark nodded, she started jumping on her 4 legs like a poodle. Yay, big bro is the best. She might be of lower rank than Ark and less knowledgeable, but she is certainly more emotional compared to Ark. It was as if she was a human in the body of a robot. Mark couldn't help but smile when he saw that, and Ark gave a weird glance at the jumping dog. His gaze was filled with curiosity. The same day evening, Leyan City, Leon Empire. In the streets of the 7th biggest city of the Leon Empire, roughly 24 corpses were lying on the ground. Some of them had their heads cut off away, some were mere stabs in the necks or in the chest, and some had several cuts all over the body, and some turned into dried flesh. Find out what happens next on MVLEM per. The city lord was in fear, with his trusted subordinate of 7 Circle Realm Cultivation shielding him, as an old witch with a staff was slowly advancing toward him with a creepy smile. However, she wasn't the one who the city lord and his bodyguard were afraid of. It is the hooded woman standing beside with a scimitar in her hand. Under the hood, her face was emotionless and her steps were steady, as if she had no intention to move. We don't have any personal enmity, Senior. If you show me mercy, I'll pay compensation 2 times the amount you were commissioned with, the city lord pleaded with a roar. The old witch let out a chuckle. Sorry, but the client promised us something more valuable than your pitiful money. You should die. Surrender to your fate and you will die without much pain. Resist and you will receive a death worse than your servants. The city lord's eyes couldn't help but wander the streets to glance at the corpses once again. He gulped his saliva. Lord Yi, I will stop them here. Take the chance to escape, said the bodyguard as he took another pill to stabilize his cultivation. He wasn't originally a 7 Circle Realm expert. He was a 6 Circle Realm expert who took a high-quality augmentation pill to raise it temporarily. He had 2 of them. Taking another one will not help him much, but it will give him some more time to maintain the realm. Once its effects are over, he is going to become so weak from double consumption that even a kid could kill him. Yikaja knew it, but he couldn't bear to leave his best friend, whom he had grown up with, to die. At the same time, there is no guarantee that he will live either. As a last resort, he took out the family inheritance and threw it to the ground. How about take it and leave us alone? Announce to your client that we were killed. We will be leaving this city, no, this empire, and never to return. Snap. So noisy. The old witch snapped her fingers in response to his deal. Suddenly, vines erupted from the ground and captured them, absorbing their life force. Puppet, go, she ordered the hooded woman simultaneously. The woman charged forward and swung down the sword at their necks, not giving them any time to even defend themselves. As both of their heads rolled on the ground, the hooded expert returned the scimitar back to its sheath, returning to her master with a single leap. The witch then slowly walked forward and picked up a double-sided mirror. Foolish human. I can get the mirror of truth after killing him too. Why would I spare him and risk my reputation? After observing it for a while, she poured her ether energy into it and aimed toward the hooded expert. The latter stood there, without moving an inch. As one side of the mirror emitted rays of light and shined upon the target, the other side displayed a metallic robot. She wasn't a human who died. She was a lifeless puppet who was probably discarded by its owner. Her smile grew further as she gazed at the hooded woman once again. This makes it even more perfect to use for assassinations. Anyway, let's continue. She took out a scroll and opened it, revealing several names on the list. Almost all of them were struck off. She struck off the name Yikajan's name with a tiny beam of ether energy from her finger. As soon as his name has been cut off, another name is revealed at the bottom of the scroll, Shi-En, the successor to the Nuwa Church's supreme pontiff. This is going to be troublesome. She furrowed his brows. Didn't he sever his ties with the royal family? Why does the prince want him dead? Was he worried that the prince would return to the family and claim the throne? Well, he is in the direct line of the previous emperor. In theory, he does have the right. Oh, well, we can't question his intentions. According to the deal, I promised to kill 50 of them. And so far, I have killed 48. Once I kill him and then the next, who might even be that old emperor or another prince in competition, I will finally get that Ammon scroll's last fragment. Once I finish collecting the pieces, I will be able to summon Ammon and form the contract. I'll be invincible then. Not even those demigods from Western Moon will be my match. Chapter 575. AI-Controlled Beasts. 3 days later. At an unnamed island. 3, 2, 1. Boom! A missile was shot from the sky, aiming at the black tortoise that is suppressed to stay still by the gravity dome. Of course, the effects of the gravity dome were also on the missile. But unlike the beast, the missile didn't slow down but had its speed increased 1,000-fold. The majestic black tortoise couldn't even conjure up its shield, and helplessly stared at the missile that fell on it and its siblings. As the missile struck the island, the antimatter injected into it released into the surroundings, causing a huge explosion, enough to sink down the entire 1 km of the island into the ocean. As the holy beast was drowned in the ocean, Mark came out from the divine throne, which was now in the shape of a huge flying ship in the sky with a missile defense system, and a missile launcher mounted on top of it. He stared down at the body of water and raised his hand. Release. The gravity effects in the surroundings became normal, and the beasts slowly floated to the air. Master. The black tortoise's pitiful call echoed in the surroundings as its head came out of the water. Its gaze was on its favorite human who probably met them only 10 times so far in the past year, only to push them to death when met again after a long time. It doesn't work. We holy beasts need the offering of a demigod realm's divine or a demonic beast's heart to break through. Mark put his hands behind his back, exuding the air of a demigod that people describe in the books, as he replied, "That could be one of the ways, but it doesn't mean it is the only way. From my experience, what I learned is that you could make a breakthrough if you touch the death door. So, try to live while I try to kill you. You'll become a demigod realm beast within no time." Master. As it once again pitifully looked at Mark, the latter stretched his hands toward it and unleashed another skill. Attraction. A large amount of suction force erupted from his palms, pulling the majestic beast to the sky. The one with an all-seeing eye, who taught many junior deities in its past life, has now ended up under the mercy of Mark. As it reached its master, a box hit on its head and it flew down hundreds of meters once again and crashed into the waters. It fainted right away. After a while, as it gained consciousness, the black tortoise received a few more rounds of beating to the point of losing its consciousness once again. Until the evening, this repeated 18 times to be exact, but it never showed hostility even on one occasion, despite the fact that Mark never activated his titles of either Absolute Authority or Master of Holy Beasts, both of which give him complete control over them. Once the sun had set down and the black tortoise woke up for the 19th time, expecting to be beaten down once again, it found itself levitating, being carried away into the facility it was familiar with but never stepped inside. When it entered, the black tortoise found its 3 siblings being tied up on the ground with normal ropes. 2 of them seemed to be unconscious, while the azure dragon was struggling to move, flapping its legs and arms uncontrollably, but still couldn't break the ordinary-looking ropes for some reason. Meanwhile, a few high-ranking robots are using various divine weapons, mithril-grade swords and spears, given by Mark to tear the dragon scales apart. "Relax, Qing Long, it is just going to be fine. Bear with the pain and you will achieve the breakthrough," said Mark as he walked forward at a steady pace. "Gra, Graya, Graya," the dragon continued to roar, pleading with him to free it. But Mark turned a deaf ear to it and went past it, placing the tortoise on the floor before the robots rushed forward and tied it up with large and thick ropes, which were tied to a heavy steel bar on the side. Once it was tied up, Mark then placed his arm on one of the ropes that tied its shell in the body. Density manipulation, 1,000 times. Each of the rope and the steel bar had its density increased by 1,000 times, and the holy beast's cultivation was brutally suppressed by the factory. However, Xuan Wu has incredible physical strength, especially its hard shell that could even take the attack of an immortal. So, Mark wasn't confident. Fortunately, his beatings made it completely obedient to the point that Mark wondered whether he should have done the same thing to the azure dragon too. As it lay there lifelessly as if it was implying that it didn't care anymore, Mark observed its shell and knocked on it a few times, speaking out loud. "Arc Prime, does it only work if it was implanted in the chest? Can we implant it in its head, integrating it with its brain instead of the heart? Its shell is a lot sturdier than those scales of Qing Long." The robot supervising the vitals of the dragon replied, "It can be possible, Master, but it will be a complicated surgery. Any mistake will cause permanent damage to the brain, ending up brain dead and living as a non-living thing for eternity. It is not easy to revive the brain, unlike the heart. Moreover, there is a moderate risk of amnesia and a high risk of losing intelligence. You will turn a sage into a fool." The black tortoise didn't know what they were planning, but the robot's words caused a shiver all over its body. Master, I can remove the shell." It forced out its words in a shaking voice. It doesn't fear death but fears losing of its extensive knowledge of the cosmos, which it was proud of. Moreover, since it always retains the abilities and the memories it had in past life, Xuan Wu will not retain its knowledge if it loses now. You can remove the shell. Mark always thought that the shell was a part of a tortoise, so he never considered such a possibility. "Yes, I can transform it into a huge dome to protect the area, but I cannot use it with the suppression on me." Mark thought for a bit and gave a nod. "Fine, we'll do your operation outside the facility. Arc Secundus, you follow me." "Yes, sir." Azure Dragon's eyes widened when it heard him and it tried to protest. "No, this is Unfa Arg." Little did it know that outside the facility, as Black Tortoise removed its shield and transformed into a giant barrier that covered its 500-meter surroundings, the gravitational force descended upon its thin and weak body, almost crushing its bones before it turned upside down, and had its interior skin cut by a laser beam by a robot. This robot is called Arc Secundus, the second robot where the AI core was installed, but with inheriting the gravity powers from him. Using its elemental and arc's connection with Mark, this robot managed to stay unaffected by the gravity dome and calmly operated on the vulnerable black tortoise, which had even louder screams than the dragon. But its resistance is a bare minimum, and so was its defense. Hence, it didn't take long for the robot to finish its surgery, successfully implanting the AI core into the body of Xu Wu. Once the operation is finished, Mark removed the gravity dome and resummoned the divine throne from his inventory, using its ability of divine healing to heal its external wound from the surgery and the internal injuries from the gravity dome altogether. Ding, integration has been successful, proceeding to dismiss the skill. Xu Wu, for the first time, heard a voice in its head that it didn't recognize, but it didn't feel hostile toward it. The beast doesn't know why, but it just trusted the voice on its intuition and let it control its body. Probably the main reason is that Ark's main body and Mark were connected, while Mark and Xu Wu are connected by contract. The black tortoise's appearance was restored, and eventually, it has also gone into a deep state of sleep as the rest of them. Seeing that everything went smoothly, Mark let out a sigh of relief as he stared at the beast. Beating it to the death over and over made it less stubborn and become more obedient. I thought it would be the hardest to handle because of its arrogance over its knowledge and stubbornness over its decision, but it looks like beasts are certainly different. According to the glossary left behind by the system, my primeval bloodline did have an enormous effect on lower bloodlines. Only primordials could resist it. Anyway, the first step is done. Now, once the dragon is also operated, I can move on to the next step, neural synchronization and a forceful breakthrough.